Hello, everybody, and welcome to the it's the sixth iteration of the WHYBUT podcast. I almost did the fifth then. And my name is Nick. I am joined by my co-host, Isaac. And
That's me.
Isaac, I received an email today.
Ooh.
Would you believe it? In my junk. I checked my junk/spam folder. And the title read, "I've been watching you." And I thought, oh no. And I tapped on it and it said, "Hello, my name is John. I've been watching you through your webcam this whole time." Right?
Yep. I've had these emails.
I don't have a webcam. Yeah, I don't have a webcam, but you know,
Yeah.
I do have a camera. So I assume
Probably
John
what he's talking about.
Right?
Yeah.
And he said, "I know everything that you've been up to, but I don't care. I'm not going to ask for any money or Bitcoin to know to get this information back because I don't care what you've been up to. The only thing I want to know is what Isaac's been up to. So I'm under ransom right now, Isaac."
So he's threatening to release everything to all your friends and family through that has been recorded through that camera if I don't give you the information that you can then relay to him of what I've been up to.
Exactly.
Well,
he's been watching me and he cares so little about my life that he just wants to know what you've been up to.
I feel obliged to inform you about what I've been up to. This morning, Nick, has been a pretty standard Thursday morning currently. I woke up, I had a little bit of yogurt, Nick, 5% fat, because, you know, I'm
nice, yeah.
The 0% fat stuff, like, it's better for you, but I just can't do it, man. I can't do it. Like, I need a little bit of fat in my life, you know, for the flavor. And so 5% fat. I get is it Fage is how they pronounce it? Fage is the brand of the yogurt. I really like it. It's good. It's plain yogurt. But they pronounce it says in the box, it says pronounced Fage. And so I think it's like Fage, but it's spelled Fage. Anyway, had some yogurt, Nick. For breakfast. Very small bowl, 100 grams specifically, of yogurt to give you a really good indication of where I was this morning. I then went to the gym for like an hour and a half, came back, Nick, and then at that point, the time was ticking because I knew I had to be here for this recording session. And Nick was very insistent that I be here this time because, again, I know it was because of the ransomware. But Nick was checking up on me, he was like, "Hey, are you gonna be here?" You know, sweating emoji. He was really.
Yeah, I was panicking. Man, I was panicking.
So I rushed back and then quickly whipped up some breakfast tacos, Nick. I had.
Ooh.
Yeah, man. They are. I've been having them a bit more recently. They are so good. Bacon, and by bacon I mean turkey bacon, eggs, refried beans, which are actually I'd not had refried beans until like this year, and they are surprisingly good. Yeah. Along with a little taco wrap and some hot sauce, and it is real tasty. I then whipped up a coffee, and here I am, Nick, live. And by live, I mean pre-recorded with you for the internet to hear.
Of course. Right, few questions,
I'm
Isaac.
ready. Hit me with them.
Coffee, instant or brewed alternatively to instant?
Nick, this coffee was beans less than half an hour ago.
Beans to cup machine? Bean to cup machine?
Grind the beans into the clink, press the button, it goes ding, dun, 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 ding, as the espresso comes out, and then steamed this oat milk and good to go. Interesting thing that I came across earlier in the week, Nick. I have a favorite like type of oat milk that I like, right? That I buy regularly. This brand of oat milk that I like recently released a new flavor of oat milk, which I thought was wild. I've seen like chocolate oat milk before now.
Okay.
But Nick, 'tis the season. They released a pumpkin spiced oat milk.
Of course they did.
Give me. I'm going to show you.
I want to see it. Because I think that we have the same favorite brand of oat milk that was in my coffee earlier this morning when I couldn't be bothered to go out and get one from the shop. So let's see what he's got here.
I'm back.
He's back.
So this right here is my favorite brand of oat milk. Not a sponsor. It's Khalifa Farms. I think they do really good oat milk. Would recommend.
Yes. Yeah.
Barista blend. And then the other day, Nick, I was in the supermarket. I saw this. Boom.
Holy crap! It's orange.
It's orange. And it says pumpkin spice on it right there.
Yeah, right. And how is Isaac? How is?
It's pretty good, man. It's one of those things where it's very pumpkin spice forward. Like, it's very much, you can tell it's pumpkin spice. Even just smelling it, like, it's strong.
Right.
I will usually cut it into regular oat milk. So I'll maybe do like a 50-50 and then just make like a regular latte and have like a little bit of a pumpkin spice-esque homemade latte, Nick, which is pretty tasty.
Okay, very good. You know what I've been doing recently? I don't drink coffees like that I've made at home much. I've just got like a emergency bottle of instant coffee. I had one this morning because I couldn't be bothered to go out and get one. But what I've been doing is I don't have a milk steamer, right?
Yeah.
But I've
very
got
common
like
occurrence not to have a milk steamer. Yeah.
Very common occurrence. Very common occurrence. But I use extremely popular brand of oat milk in the UK that isn't the one that you've just shown, right?
Is it Oatly?
It is Oatly. And
don't get me wrong, I don't dislike Oatly, but if you've not tried it, this stuff, real good. We'll give it a go.
I need to get some of that. I've tried Khalifa's pre-made coffees before, right? They do them in the bottles, right? And they've always been very good. But I need to try that oat milk. So what I do is I've got the Oatly milk, and I do find it a bit thin sometimes. I've got the quote unquote barista one, which is meant to be a bit thicker. I still think it's a little bit thin. So what I do is I always have this process where I make the instant coffee. I'm like, oh, I don't want like thin oat milk. It will be a bit watery. It won't be so nice. So I've got an automatic protein shaker. So what I do is I pour the milk in there, turn it on, and I just tilt it to the sides, and it just froths the milk up, right? And then you can get like a really nice pour, and you get a bit of foam at the end, and you can pretend to do latte art, and it doesn't work at all. But it is thicker. It is thicker, which is very nice.
It's one of the reasons I like this the most. I think this is kind of one of the thickest I've tried, right? Like in terms of, I don't think it's actually thick, but it's got like that velvety texture that you associate with like real milk. It's real good. Not a sponsor. People might be wondering why we drink oat milk. For me, I just think it tastes better. Like it's not like a vegetarian thing. It's not like a dietary thing. I just think the oat milk tastes good in coffees.
Yeah, I agree. I always get oat milk these days, or when I remember. I get it more for dietary reasons. I find a lot of the times when I forget to ask for oat milk in a coffee shop and they give me the coffee, I'll obviously have, not gone through the thought process that I've forgotten to ask for oat milk, and I'll drink it and I'll be like, oh, this coffee's amazing. Like, this is unreal. This is extra good today. And then about 60% of the way through, when my stomach's starting to rumble, I'm like, oh,
that's why.
It's because I forgot to ask for oat milk. I'm like, oh no. I personally prefer the flavor of regular milk.
Cow's
if
milk,
it's like semi-skimmed or whole. I do own, funnily enough, I actually don't own any bottles of semi-skimmed or whole milk at home, but I do have a bottle of Red Top skimmed milk, right? Because I use that for protein shakes. I take the stomach. I take the stomach like hit because I so much prefer using skimmed milk in protein shakes compared to water. Right?
What? I can't do it. I cannot do protein shakes. Like
I
am one of these people now where I eat like a staggering amount of chicken, like you do as well, and to avoid protein shakes.
That's fair enough.
They're horrible. I hate it.
Yeah,
they're just so artificially sweet all of the time, and I cannot do it, man.
I don't think I've tried a good protein shake in a long time. The one protein powder that was really good that I tried a few years ago was, I think it was called Syntha 6, but it was full of sugar, right? You've got this like trilemma, right, of taste, protein content, and sugar content, and you can't have all three. You can only pick like
maybe even like a quad lemma of like calories as well. You don't want to be drinking like a 700 calorie protein shake, right?
Exactly. So I was gonna say, I didn't actually used to, I had a big gap in drinking protein shakes. I haven't drunk protein shakes for the last 2 to 3 years, up until like a month and a half ago. Just because I found that when my protein shaker would get really smelly, and I put it down to the fact that I didn't have a dishwasher, right? I wasn't cleaning it properly. I couldn't get to all of the little crevices because of the milk that was in there. And then I realized that antibacterial dish soap actually makes a huge difference, both to like my actual dish sponge, because they don't get smelly at all anymore, but also to these containers, right? Even glass containers, protein shakers. I use antibacterial dish soap, and that actually stops them from ever getting smelly. So I actually stopped having protein shakes because my protein shakers were getting so like stinky, and I was like washing these things before, and I was like, why are they still doing this? But now antibacterial dish soap, very good. And so I've got back onto it. They're not great, right? But I'll just come back from the gym when I'm thirsty, and I'll just chug it, and then I'll brush my teeth and forget I had it.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I can chug one, but it's the aftertaste. They taste so bad for so long after. Like, maybe the brushing the teeth is the way to go, but I've engineered these breakfast tacos. They've got 50 grams of protein in them, like for the two breakfast tacos that I have, mostly because of the fact that I've got... The turkey bacon is surprisingly good in terms of like protein to calorie ratio, but and not too bad either. Not an ad for turkey bacon, by the way. I also have like 3 eggs in there as well, which so yeah, I just can't do it, man. I can't do it. Like I tried, I get some, and I do drink creatine, but it's like unflavored, so I just add it to like juice and then just blend it and then drink that.
Sure.
But then I was going to mention your shaker. You see, you got like an auto shaker, which is interesting because my go-to method has been to use a cocktail shaker and just like put ice in there. So I put the powder in, put the water in, put the ice in, and then shake it like a cocktail, right? And then just pour it out, which works really well, like surprisingly well at like dissolving the powder. But then your drink is ice cold, right? Like ice cold, and trying to chug an ice cold drink is horrible, especially if you don't like the flavor. And so you could try it, but then like trying to do it without the ice, you don't have like that, debris in there that kind of shakes up the powder, and then it
breaks the clumps up, right?
I was going to ask how you rate your protein shaker. Like, I assume that just doesn't heat it up, doesn't cool it down.
No, it's very good. I've had it for years now. I think I've had it for like 4 or 5 years. I think the company that makes it, they like switched to a newer model, and I think the newer model was significantly worse. So I was like, I hope this thing never breaks. Let me have a look. It's called a not a sponsor, a Pro Mix, but with 2 X's on the end. Yeah, they still sell them, but there was I think they do still sell them. This looks like a much newer model than what I have, but the one that I have was very good. And then they switched to they did a Kickstarter basically for a newer model. And then everyone joined this Kickstarter. They released the newer model, discontinued the older one, and the newer one was terrible. And I think I got one sent to me, and I was like, this is good to AA batteries or AAA batteries.
You supported this Kickstarter, right?
I supported this Kickstarter.
I remember you saying this, yeah.
This would have been years and years and years ago. I actually owned their product already, but supposedly this one would be better. But I think they ran into the classic XYZ cost and engineering challenges that meant they had to get rid of all half the features, right, that they were talking about. So I gave that. He's off. Hi,
Nick. Apologies. The Royal Mail guy wanted to leave a parcel for my neighbor. Not even mine.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
Sorry, you were saying the bottle. They got a triangle again.
Yes.
3-pronged problems. What's the
3-pronged problems? They ran into too many issues, and then they had to release a non-rechargeable one with a non-magnetic clasp system, which was what the whole selling point was, and it was pretty terrible. So I gave it to my brother, and I think that's not been used since then. But yeah, supposedly they have a new version which is rechargeable, but I don't know how good it is. But it is very good because it's basically like a little like blender, but instead of a blade, it's just like a little, like a little plastic thing, and it creates like a little vortex in the shaker. So it's good for clumps, right? And it's very easy to clean because you can just put water in, bit of dish soap in, and then close it and turn it on.
Yeah, right.
And then you can just empty the water out, rinse it a couple of times, and then sorted. But it is very good. Would recommend.
That makes sense. Yeah, no, I've been on a crusade to try and not default to protein shakes. I've bought like the high protein pasta. I've been like ordering chicken everywhere I go. Like I've been trying my best to hit protein goals without using protein products. I got a big old bag of it, but it's so bad. It does not taste good at all. And I can't do it, man. I can't do it.
I saw the funniest thing when I was on holiday a few weeks ago. I was in a gelato place, right? And they did protein ice cream. So they'd taken a few of their popular flavors and they literally mixed in, like NSN protein powder into it. And I was so tempted to try it, but I didn't. But that was the first time I've seen that. And you could tell it was like such like a gimmicky sales product, right? Just to capture people's like attention to go into the shop to be like, what? Protein ice cream? But I can't imagine. I wanted to try it in hindsight because I wanted to know how protein powdery it tasted, right? You could probably taste the bits in the ice cream. I don't know.
Yeah. That's the thing. I don't like any of the like, I don't like a lot of the protein enhanced products if they're sweet. Like there's an aisle on the supermarket I go to, and I like the supermarket I go to, that has like, these protein mousses and protein yogurts and like protein milkshakes or whatever. And they've all got that same super artificial sweet taste, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm fine with artificial sweeteners. I'll drink a Coke Zero any day of the week, but there's something about the level of like artificial sweetness that they pump into protein products to make them taste good that I'm just not about. The high protein pasta though, surprisingly good. Surprisingly
interesting.
Good. Yeah.
Very interesting.
It's like 22 grams of protein for a 75-gram portion of pasta, which is,
that is
not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah,
that is not bad at all. Very interesting. Next question, Isaac.
Yeah. About my morning routine. Oh,
Tacos.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Soft shell or hard shell?
Oh, Nick, I think I have a very strong opinion on this. I think there is only one correct answer that some people are going to disagree with. I am soft shell all the way.
That's the correct answer.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought so. Good. Like, I don't get it. So we have hard shells because my girlfriend loves the hard shell tacos, which I think is crazy. They're so much harder to eat. You go to take a bite, the whole thing crumbles instantly. Like the whole thing cracks, and then it's all falling everywhere. They don't taste that much better. Like, it just... soft shell. All the way. All the way.
Correct. Yeah, hard shell is just one big nacho with filling in it, right? It all just comes out. Like, it shatters.
It shatters. It makes no sense.
It does make no sense, and you can't close it. If you're eating one side, you can't close the other side to stop the filling from kind of dropping out. Like it's so much more impractical.
At Taco Bell, they do like a savor. They call it the cravings menu at Taco Bell. They do a cheesy beef burrito that is beef cheese. It's wrapped in soft shell, but then it's got Doritos in it. So they're like snapped up and put Doritos in it. I think that gets you the best of both worlds. It doesn't fall apart. You still get a bit of that crunch with the cheese and the beef, and it's delicious. It's terrible for you, but it's I don't understand the whole like having a vessel that's so unreliable for your food. It just shatters, right? It'd be like if you had an ice cream on a cone, and the second you licked the top of the ice cream, the whole cone shattered, and you had to just like hold the ice cream in your hand and then like try and slurp it out. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. I'm very anti hard shell tacos.
I'm actually also of the opinion that ice cream cones are very impractical to eat ice cream out of as well.
They are,
because
that's true.
Most likely the situation will be if you're having ice cream is that it's hot and it just instantly melts all over your hands. And I'm really sensitive to like messy hands. If I get like sticky hands, I have to wash them instantly. I'm like, I need to wash my hands. Like I'll go to a restaurant, I'll wash my hands before so that if I'm like, especially if I'm, if any food requires touching, right? Mm-hmm. I'll wash my hands before, obviously, so that my hands are clean. But afterwards, even if there's a bit of oil or something, I need to wash my hands because I don't want to get it all on my phone. I just get a bit sticky. They become like a little bit more like they'll pick up more dirt easily.
Yeah, I really dislike eating finger food out. Like chicken wings, delicious. But I hate eating them. Like hate eating sticky chicken wings at a restaurant. It's just like getting your hands dirty and then having to like clean them, and then it's just I'm not a fan. I want to eat chicken wings, but I don't want to. You got sauce all over your face. It's a whole thing,
Yeah. A lot of times I kind of want to like wash my mouth as well. And we'll
just
come
take
on
a quick
to
shower. Like you got a shower
honestly, right. I'm gonna be like, yo, I need to clean my whole body.
Can I get a shower
Right?
between my starter and main and between my main and dessert, please? Can I have 2 showers
And then
real
after
quick?
dessert as well, and before everything too. You need the separation, right? Obviously. Oh
But
man.
yeah, speaking of Taco Bell real quick, they also did. I tried there isn't a Taco Bell near me. Like I've got to drive like over half an hour to get to one.
Sure.
So I don't go regularly. But they did in the UK they're doing this chicken taco. So the taco is inside of like a folded chicken piece. So the shell is chicken, right?
Oh, right.
It's like breaded chicken is
right.
the shell. They basically have a flat piece of breaded chicken that they then like fold in half and they fill with, cheese, lettuce, tomato, sour cream, whatever it is. Surprisingly good. I quite liked it.
Okay,
it was tasty.
Nice.
Yeah, just a heads up
Very
on that one. That's another thing that I've been up to.
I remember when KFC did the burger, but instead of bread, it was 2 pieces of fried chicken. And
they call that the double down.
What was it called? The double down. That was it. I remember having that, and I was like, "This is amazing." And
it's so good. I love it.
So tired afterwards. It was like, God, I need a nap. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of chicken, man, this episode was supposed to have been recorded a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
A few days ago, I was making some chicken. So this was
not like creating new chicken. You were like cooking pre-made chicken.
No, cooking chicken. So this was in a packet, pre-seasoned chicken, right? Raw chicken in the packet. So I was like, okay, I'm going to cook it in my air fryer like I always do. There was 2 chicken butterflies in this packet, right? So kind
chicken
of like
breast
a breast sliced down the middle. Yeah, exactly. And opened out and then seasoned. So I was like, cool. Got the air fryer basket out, foil in.
Best way to cook chicken breast is butterflied.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Stuck it in, put it on for do like 6 minutes, turn it over 6 minutes, right? 6 minutes passed, opened it up to turn it over. Turns out one of the butterflies wasn't a butterfly. It was 2 chicken breasts that had just overlapped slightly. And because my fridge is probably colder than it should be, it just ever so slightly frozen together. Right.
You got your fridge at like the lowest possible temperature.
Mine is 4 out of 5, right? I find that anything above 4 starts freezing things.
Yeah.
So I keep it at 4. So I want to get as close as possible without actually freezing food. But sometimes I'll like load stuff into the top shelf and it will knock the dial. And then they'll come back and I'll be like, why is my water jug frozen? And then like all of this salad is frozen. And then I'll look and I'll be like, oh, something's hit the bloody knob.
I like need a new fridge. Mine's got
right.
Mine's quite old at this point, like over 10 years. But it's got a screen on the front where you're supposed to control the temperature of the fridge and the freezer, right? And so I had my fridge set to like 1 degree and then like 1 degree Celsius, and my freezer set to like -24 or whatever. But the screen has stopped working. It just shows 0, 0, 0, 0. It's been like this for like a year now. It still freezes and it still cools in the fridge, but I find if I put like too much in the fridge at once, the fridge, I think the fridge has got like a little temperature sensor, right? And so when you put in a lot of room temperature stuff, the temperature in the fridge comes down and the fridge is like, oh, we've got to start working to cool things down. But I think it's broken in such a way that usually when that happens, I come back to like a half-frozen bottle of Coke Zero or like any liquids that are in there start to freeze, or like a little the lemon juice bottle will be frozen. There'll just be an ice puck inside of the lemon juice bottle.
Nice, yeah,
and so,
yeah.
No, I need to get the fridge, man. I can't change the temperature at all.
Sounds like it needs a replacement. It's probably like a dodgy processing or something like that. Yeah. These things too complicated these days, man. So I had this air fry basket and these I'd noticed, right? And I was like, okay, so what happened here was the bottom side of the end of one piece of chicken was slightly raw, and then the top side of the other piece of chicken was slightly raw, right? So I pulled them apart and I was like, right. I was gonna flip these over anyway, but these parts that are actually already exposed to the top of the air fryer are a little bit raw. But I thought it was just the ends, right? The ends of the piece of chicken. So I turned them over, put it back in. I fried it for a bit longer than usual and at a bit of a higher temperature than usual. Opened the air fryer up, golden brown, looked like it had cooked all the way through. Great. Anyway, 5 minutes later, eating. Cooked great, right? I get to the end bit where these 2 pieces of chicken had met each other.
Yeah.
And you know when you chew down and it's just a little bit slimy? And you're like, this probably isn't the texture it should be.
Yeah.
When I bit down, that happened, and I was like, oh. But then I thought, oh, I did cook this for a longer time, and it's just the end piece. Like, surely it cooked through. And I was like, maybe it's just a tendon, right?
It could be, yeah.
Just a tendon. Continued. I saw it through. Ate it. Fine.
Is this the story of how you're... Oh, I see. Okay, I understand where we're going here. Right, okay. I've just gotten on to the point of this story.
Yeah, immediately, fine.
Yeah.
Next morning, not fine. Right, I woke up, I was like, oh no. I knew instantly what it was. I was like, oh God. And then, you know, when you're like, you think you're better?
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh no, I'm okay now. I'm all good. Oh, no. And then like 45 minutes later, I was like at my desk and I was like, I think I'm all right, you know. I think I'm okay. And then 5 minutes later, I was like, no, I'm not okay. So I managed to give myself like a really minor bout of food poisoning, which put me out of action for like 24 hours. And I was just like, chugging the water, right?
So, question though, about your air fryer. I don't own an air fryer. I've not joined the cult. You mentioned flipping it. My assumption was like the air fryer was like a circulatory device. Is that not how it works, or does it like have a heater at like the top or the bottom?
Okay, so the air fryer is a circulatory device, but I line my air fryer basket with kitchen foil because if I didn't do that, the basket would be a massive pain in the ass to clean.
Second question, tangential question. What is the difference then? Because why don't you just put the chicken in the oven with foil?
Takes way longer, needs to preheat, doesn't cook as quickly. So I use the air fryer like a small oven. It's effectively
I see.
Treat it exactly like a small oven that doesn't need preheating.
So
right?
it's just and by doesn't need preheating, you just mean it's so small that it heats up quicker. Like it
very quickly,
preheat, but just very quickly, as opposed to a normal size oven that's going to take a longer to get that temperature.
So sometimes you turn the oven on, you wait a bit, then you put your food in. The air fryer, you just put your food in without turning it on beforehand. You just turn it on, right? So very good for the bills, very good for time to eat. Economical, right? All of that stuff, and cooks quickly. So
I assume the only downside is like space, like keeping the air
only
fryer somewhere.
downside is space. Yes, exactly. It needs to go on a countertop,
and the fact that you're contractually obliged to tell everybody you meet that you want an air fryer.
Exactly.
Those are the only two downsides.
Yeah, like it's literally life changing.
Yeah, you sign a contract when you purchase it, right? That you have to rave about them. Yeah. I thought
Exactly. But the difference is this time they don't give you any money back or give you it for free. You just signed into like a one way.
Yeah,
it's quite one sided, isn't it? So yes, I use it with foil. So I think if you didn't use foil and, you just chucked your basket in the dishwasher afterwards, it is more circulatory. There are some very fancy air fryers that have a heating element and a fan at the top and then a heating element and a fan at the bottom, which are very nice, but I think they're quite large, which is probably also why I don't own one. And I also think they're quite expensive, but they're probably the way to go if you've got a large kitchen with lots of counter space. So yeah, I ate a little bit of raw chicken and I suffered the consequences. So that was why our recording was delayed a couple days ago.
I would say that's surprising, but because I think it's somewhat surprising. Because I think that for the most part, the chicken in the UK is pretty good. Like obviously you shouldn't eat it raw, but I think the thing that's different between the chicken that I'm thinking of and what you ate is that yours is processed in a way, right? It's gone to a factory, they've cut it in half, they've seasoned it, like it's gone through more steps from farm to table than it has like if you just go and buy chicken from the supermarket or from a farm or whatever, right?
I think that's exactly right, yeah. And I mean, yeah, when you open a chicken packet and you use the chicken, how do you deal with the chicken packet? Do you rinse it? Do you put it straight in the bin? Do you rinse it and then put it in the recycling?
So I don't think the chicken packets that I'm thinking of, it's like a plastic tub, right?
Correct.
I don't think they're recyclable. I don't recycle mine.
I don't think so either. I don't recycle mine.
Like the thin film on top, which I think is definitely not recyclable. Like the thin film of plastic you peel back. Then the main tub could be recyclable. I'd have to check, but I don't treat it as recyclable. I just put it straight in the bin. I don't rinse it.
Okay.
Just straight in the bin.
No rinsing. Okay, I do the exact same, right? Yeah. If I've just changed my bin bag,
Yeah.
right? And the first thing I put in is a chicken packet. So that chicken packet's going to be there for like, I don't know, 5 days to a week. That bin is freaking stinking after a week, right?
We go through different amounts of bins, man. I think I'm changing my. So I don't know what kind of bin you have. Do you have like a stand-up
I have
bin?
a tubular, circular stand-up bin with a little pedal that I put my foot on to open the.
I see.
It's like a size. It's like bras, man. It's a size G. 35 liters. I think those are the bags I get anyway.
Is what you're after, right?
I think it's 35 liters.
Mine, I have a cupboard door that opens, and then it's on the inside of the door. So it's attached to the door. So I have one cupboard. Inside that cupboard, I have like a recycle bin on the inside the cupboard that I put my recycle stuff in, and then attached to the inside of the door is the actual bin. It's 15 liters. It's a much smaller bin. So I was going to say, I'm throwing my bin out like every other day, man. Never is it lasting 5 days.
Okay.
You know, I'm very quickly cycling stuff out. And
I see. So you don't experience this. Yeah, sometimes I get some stinky chicken pie. I was like, wow, that is... The problem is as well, because I've got a combined living space with the kitchen, like that is stinking my whole living room out. And I'm like, oh, God. But the thing is, I mean, I didn't buy my bin. My bin came with my apartment, but I'm glad that it's big because I have to leave and then go somewhere to put the bin bag out, right? So it's a whole thing. I put shoes on. It's a big pain in the arse. So I'm like, I'm quite happy to take the smell over the frequency of taking the bin bag out. But sometimes I'm like, God, this thing bloody stinks. The amount of bacteria, right, in this packet. To foster this kind of smell after only a couple of days must be really high, right? So that, you know, kind of adds some merit to the fact that this stuff is probably processed a bit more. It's more exposed. It's probably been out for longer. Some of these things, I don't know if it's the chicken so much, but I know a lot of fish based dish, like fish at the supermarket, is frozen and then defrosted by the supermarket and then put on the shelves for logistics reasons.
I think the meat's got to be the same, man. Like, just because they sell so much of it, like, I think they probably got it frozen and then they kind of cycle it out just to make the whole thing easier. Yeah. So
it's been, you know, in a some form of shelf for a really long period of time, maybe. So that was, and I was like, the last time I got food poisoning was a while ago, and I was finished for like 2 days. I was like, that one was like, I think that one came from fish, and I was I was tired as well.
I've not had food poisoning too many times. I've had it, I think, like 3 times in my life. Twice from the same establishment.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Twice from the same establishment. The last one that I had, it was last year, Nick. I was out for a week. I was in bed. It was horrific. It was so bad. I'm going to call them out. Pizza Hut. Gave it me twice.
No way.
Twice.
No way.
Yeah.
What was it that you ate?
I've no idea. I've no idea. The thing is, me and my girlfriend, we were eating it the night before. It was the best Pizza Hut I've ever had delivered. It was so good.
That's such a shame.
And then before the next morning, we're both just erupting. It's horrible. Like, horrendous, you know.
So, yeah, like, it is a great... I think the last time I got food poisoning, my stomach was out for 2 days, and I was really tired. Like, I couldn't believe how tired I was. This time I didn't get that, but I had the pain. You know, you get the pain that's associated, like the cramps that's associated with it. That was pretty nasty. I think the first time I got food poisoning was many years ago, and that was definitely the worst. That was like both sides sick on the toilet, like
head
you're
over
done
the bath,
for like you're just completely finished off. That was the worst bout of food poisoning I've ever had. I think this one was more of a temporary stomach upset more than a true sickness
like a bacteria
generated from food poisoning, right?
You've not got actual E. coli in your system. Yeah.
Exactly. But I was there like, can I do 2 hours? I think I could do 2 hours. No, can't do 2 hours. I was like, can I be okay for 2 hours?
You didn't want to do the podcast on the toilet? You didn't want to be sat there with your
probably should have, you know. My bathroom fan is really loud, though. It sounds like a bloody jet. So that would be the only downside.
Yeah, it's not too bad for me with the bin either. I just take it. I got the door in the kitchen that leads outside, and the bin's right there. So I just off the kitchen into the bin. Jobs are good. I don't have to go down any stairs. One step, I guess.
the house situation is much
Yeah.
kinder. I remember when I used to live in a house and it was easy. You just bin out, into bin, outside. I leaned out the front door, right? So that I didn't have to put my shoes on, because our bins would be right next to the front door, and I'd just be like, swing, and then I'd chuck it in, close it, then lean back in, shut the door, all good. I do miss those days, but could be worse. Could be a lot worse.
Yeah, right.
So I just see the word cat, Isaac.
Yeah, so I have a kitten who is
You
like
do.
a few months old now, maybe like 5 months old. I don't know the exact age. But when so my girlfriend wanted a new kitten, so we got a new kitten, right? She purchased the kitten, all her doing. Like she went, found the kitten, bought the kitten, set everything up, yada yada yada. And the advert the ad that we purchased from described the cat as being a ragdoll, right? And we've got new tech right here, Nick. I'm going to show you Google, okay, real quick here, because and if you're listening to this podcast, we'll do our best to describe what is being shown visually right here. But if I type in ragdoll cat, this is kind of like what my cat looks like, right?
I see. Yes,
right?
yes. It's like a pet food advert cat. You see this cat in lots of cat food adverts. It's like the almost like the Felix cat, but a little bit lighter.
Exactly. And like, my girlfriend said that the ad, I think, even said that it was like a seal point ragdoll, right? They've got like these dark faces, they've got dark ears, and this is very much so what my cat looks like, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll even go so far, Nick, as to send you a photo right here. What's the most recent photo I have of my cat? Select more photos. Thank you, Discord.
Thanks, Discord.
Here you go. This is a photo that includes my mouse mat that's way dirtier than it should be.
Thank you.
Come on, Discord. Select more photos. I selected it and clicked done, and then it's like it just doesn't show up in the...
It's like, nah, mate, sorry. You didn't select anything.
Hold on, then. Oh, I don't want it. Oh, no, there it is. Okay, I see. Boom. So this is my cat, right?
Very cute. Yes.
Yeah. And so it kind of looks like this, right? She kind of looks like this kind of cat where it's like a ragdoll seal point. And so I'm like, okay. And if you look at like ragdoll temperament, right? The temperament of the cat is gentle, calm, and sociable, right? Affectionate without being demanding, ragdolls have an almost dog-like devotion to their owners. Some people also say they are attuned to emotional needs, a characteristic that makes them a perfect companion, right? And if you kind of read up on the ragdolls, right, their vocal level is quiet, their energy level is calm, like they are chill cats, right? And they're large, lovable cats who are patient and gentle. They love being picked up, they'll get on well with children, all this stuff, right? I don't think that I got a ragdoll cat, right?
Right. Please elaborate.
My cat, she is the most energetic cat I've ever... We went through quite a lot of cats growing up as kids, right? Not like hundreds, but like, I have a cat currently.
Fair share.
We had a couple of cats growing up. I've seen a lot of kittens, right? And they're usually playful, but this cat, she is very playful, and she is definitely like a born hunter. She will hunt everything that moves. If something moves, she wants to kill it, right? And so there's another cat breed called like a Balinese or something. Cat. What's it called? This one here, which looks the same.
The exact same.
Right? And so I think this is what we have, right? I think this is the kind of cat we've got. And when you look at the characteristics of this kind of cat, it's like very active, intelligent, affectionate, medium-sized cat. Because she's not very big. We took her to the vet and they were like, yeah, she's real small. Like the first time we took her, they wouldn't give her the her vaccinations because she was too small at the time. But yeah, these cats are super active, super energetic, like really odd. So anyway, the point of this story is that like I think we got somewhat missold on the cat, right?
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I love the cat, but the setup here is that she's super active, right? And so like we've got like blinds in the living room and she'll fight the little things at the bottom of the blinds, and she'll chase stuff, and she'll try and knocking stuff off. And so we're like, okay, we need to give her stuff to do to entertain herself, to wear herself out, so she can, calm down, so she can get herself out. And so my girlfriend bought some new toys recently. We got like a little one of those balls that you can put like cat biscuits into, and then as they beat him around, if they hit him enough, like little treats will fall out, and so she can kind of hit that around. My favorite though, Nick, is this thing right here, which is a fish, right? But then as you like touch it, as she hits it, it I believe moves on its own, so it'll independently start like wriggling. I don't know if you can quite hear the way it's like the sound.
I can hear it, yeah.
But I'm holding like a fabric fish, which is a little grimy because it's been on the floor and under the cabinets in my house. But it just, as she grabs it, it starts to wriggle and move, and so it feels to her like it's more of like a real thing, and she'll go for it. Yeah, no, she's been going crazy for it. I had to steal this from her, and I'm hoping I can put it down and it'll stop. But like we also got like a ball that also kind of rolls on its own. It's got like a feather attached to it. So we bought all these toys, and she's, taking care of herself now. But she's crazy. She also kind of, Nick, plays fetch, which is wild.
No way!
Yeah. So my living room, outside my living room is like a hallway, right? That goes to the front door. And so we got the first like set of toys we got, which is like a couple of little balls that have got like a little shaky bell thing inside, right? And so if you're in the living room, you can kind of throw this ball out of the door, down the hallway. She barrels after it at the speed of light. She goes so fast. You see her, my floors are all wood, and so you'll see her do that thing where they try and go too fast and they kind of just move in place for a second. Yeah. So she'll go and then sprint as fast as she can down the hall. She'll grab it, and then she'll come back like a cat holding a mouse with this like fabric ball in her hand, and then just drop it in the living room, and then you can pick it up and just throw it back down again. And sometimes she'll spend a minute playing with it by the front door, but then she'll just bring the whole thing back again, and you can just keep going with it, which is, quite fun.
No way. It's like a proper hunter instinct. So, a couple of questions.
Yep.
The first, is it possible to get, so context, I've never owned a cat or a dog or any, four-legged mammal pet, right? So I'm not well versed in the ecosystem of pet ownership, right?
Two-legged mammal pets or
five-legged mammal pets?
Yeah.
I am a two-legged mammal pet myself, Isaac.
Well, go on, what's your question?
Is it possible to test for breed?
So you can test for breed, and you'll get a result. Like you can, I've seen people do it with their dogs and stuff. The trouble, I guess, is that like I think a lot of the time, unless you're paying like a silly amount of money for like a pedigree of some persuasion, you're gonna get like a real hodgepodge of results, right?
Sure.
Like I've seen quite a lot of dogs get. I don't know about cats. I'm not familiar with enough breeds of cats, right? I couldn't tell you. I couldn't list 5. Whereas with dogs, you'll see like a small dog, and they'll get it tested, and like the dog doesn't look like a Chihuahua at all, but it's like 40% Chihuahua. It'll be like it's 40% Chihuahua. It's like 58%. I don't know, Cocker Spaniel or something. You know what I mean? It'll have like 12 different things in it because they're also like kind of crossbred at this point that you can get it tested, but you're going to get like a wide array of results, right?
Right. I see.
And from what I've seen, it seems like any small dog has got like at least 15% Chihuahua in it or 20% Chihuahua as they've tried to kind of just make them smaller and smaller, I imagine. And so I don't know. You might be able to do it for cats, but I don't know.
See,
but also the ragdoll breed seems like a fairly new one in the grand scheme of things.
Interesting. Is it like a hot off the press breed? Is that why the breeders try to advertise it as?
I think so. I think the thing is that there's probably just not enough of them in the UK, and so they're being bred with similar-ish looking cats and then sold, as ragdolls.
Right.
Because it says the ragdoll breed, yada yada yada. Ann Baker developed ragdolls in the 1960s. It's from the US, right? So they're obviously that's like 60 years ago now. But 60 years ago, California, US, that's not many cat lifetimes ago, right?
No, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So I'd be surprised if there were like thousands of ragdolls in the or hundreds of thousands of ragdolls in the UK. You know what I mean? Like I think it's a lot more likely there's like just a little bit of tomfoolery going on.
Sure. Okay, that checks out, to be fair. Second question.
Yeah.
Has she been let out yet?
So we're not going to let her out. She's gonna be an indoor
Okay.
cat, right?
Sure.
Mostly because of the fact that like people steal these cats is the
right.
thing, right?
I see.
She's
I
like a
see,
super
I see.
fluffy, you know, like
Cute.
cute. She is quite friendly. Like she's not. She's a hunter for sure, but like she is a bit of an idiot when it comes to danger, right?
Sure.
My other cat is very skittish, right? She if someone tries to walk up to her, she's gone, right?
Right.
Whereas Noodle, who is that's the name of the fake ragdoll that we have, she I think if we let her out, I think people would assume she's probably worth more than she is and maybe try and steal the cat, right? And at the same time, I think she's also just way too friendly, right? She'd probably go up to more people. She'd probably like try and get herself kidnapped, you know?
right.
And
I see.
And so the plan is is to keep her as an indoor cat. We've got a cat flap that uses so you get your cats chipped, right? So you can identify them, or they can be identified if they get lost. And we've got a cat flap that scans the chips. We used to have one that only scanned coming in, so that only our cats could come in, but any cat could go out, right? Because obviously only our cats are in. Recently, though, we swapped it out to a new cat flap that checks on the way out and on the way in. So now my older cat can leave and come back in, but the younger cat can't follow her out, which she hates, by the way.
I bet. She's there trying to like bashing her head on the flap, right? Being like, why can't I leave?
So my older cat does not like my kitten, right?
Right.
At all, because my kitten is so playful, right? And as soon as my older cat comes in, Noodle, the name of my kitten, she'll barrel towards her and then start trying to play it. And my older cat is having none of it. She hisses. She's like, "No, back away! Stop it, please!" And then half the time she'll just leave, and then Noodle will walk over and start swiping at the cat flap trying to get out, but it doesn't let her out. And so yeah, I think she would do well outside, and like I think she'd like the ability to run outside, the ability to like hunt mice and stuff. I think she'd be good at it. But yeah, I think she's gonna be an indoor cat.
Right. Okay, that's fair enough. So your older cat's safe space and space of serenity is just the outdoors. Then basically, when she's had enough, she'll just be like, right, I'm out.
Yep,
I'm going out to the garden. Yep. I'm gonna go roam the local area. Yep. That is very fun. And then that also answers my final question, which was going to be: has Noodle brought in like rats or mice or anything like that? And have you had to go through the whole like attach a bell to them and try and outsmart the ability for the cat to outsmart prey?
Well, so like already, but my older cat, I think we talked before about me putting a bell on my older cat and then putting a second bell on her because she's too good at getting mice.
Yeah.
She still brings mice in, and so she has brought mice in before then that Noodle has managed to get a hold of, and so we have to go and like wrestle those away from her, being like, no, don't eat this gross mouse that you've brought in from outside.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So we've got the worst of both worlds now. We've got like the outdoor cat that brings in the mice and the dirty footprints, and we've also got a litter tray that stinks in the corner of the house as well. So
and now you have to buy more cat food too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Oh, I bought Nick the other week. I went to the supermarket. I'll call them out. Morrison's. I bought their cat food, right? They changed their cat food. Like they changed their cat food box. They keep putting the price of cat food up. But I'm like, okay, fine.
Of course
I bought their new cat food. They used to do a whole range of cat food because they used to do like, up to 1 year, 1 to 7 years, and then like senior, which is 7 years plus. So my older cat is over 7 years old, right? She's a senior now. So I was buying her the senior cat food. They've redone it. Now they just have one box that's just called cat food, 40 pouches. I'm like, fine. So I buy a packet, and it's a little beaten up at the end, but it was the last box they had. I'm like, I need the cat food. So I go home, and I put the box on the side, and then later my girlfriend goes in, and she's going to like move the box or something and put it in the cupboard. And she goes to take a pouch out, opens the box, it stinks, right?
Oh, yeah.
Take a pouch out, maggots inside of the box. And a lot of the pouches were like bulging, and so they've clearly like knocked it in the warehouse at some point, like weeks or months ago when they've been moving it around.
Come open a bit or something.
They've left it, some of it to come open, and I'm just like, we had to throw it all away, just the whole thing.
Yeah,
like I'm sure I could have taken it back to the supermarket, but I wasn't about to put maggots back in my car and drive it to the supermarket and walk in with a box of maggots, and be like, here you go, I want my money back. I should have done, but no, I was like, we just throw it away. Like,
you just want to take the L, don't you? Yeah, that is nasty. And so did you have to go somewhere else?
It smelled so bad. Yeah, no, we did. I went to Sainsbury's and bought some Felix cat food, which is what we currently have.
Oh, no. I've never had to deal with maggots ever in my life, which I hope I hope that remains the case because it does not seem nice.
No, it's not. Years ago, we had maggots in our like black bin outside. Like I can't remember. Like this was when I was like still living at home, and I don't know why, but they're not fun, man. They're not fun. They stink. They look gross.
Yeah.
They are real bad. Wouldn't recommend.
Yeah, no, that is nasty. I don't think I've had to. I'm trying to think what pests I've had to deal with, if you could call maggots pests. I've had to deal with moths, which was not fun. When I moved into this apartment, I think because it had been left for a couple of months unoccupied, there was the time was left for loads of carpet moths to multiply. So I moved all my stuff in. And I was, quite curious, right? I was nosy. I was like looking in every room. I was sharing this apartment with someone else. They hadn't moved in yet. They were coming like a couple of days later. So I went into one of the bathrooms and then I noticed like a moth on the side. And I was like, oh, that's a bit weird. Don't really think much of it. It's just a moth. And then I noticed on the floor quite a lot of them. And some of them were kind of flying about. Some of them were just kind of sitting on the floor. And I was like, oh no, maybe it's just in here, right? So I got the vacuum cleaner out, vacuumed them all up. As I was putting the vacuum cleaner back in the cupboard, I noticed that the vacuum cleaner cupboard was full of these moths. And I was like, oh, and with the carpet's fraying, there's like holes in the carpet. There was like a big hole in this carpet. And I was like, oh no. So I vacuumed them all up too, right? And then as like this week progressed, we'll call it moving week, just moths everywhere in the bedrooms, in the other bathroom, in the living area. And we were like, right, we're going to have to get pest control. So we talked to our landlord and they were like, yeah, of course, we'll send pest control in. And that was very interesting, actually. Like these two guys came in very quickly and they had like, the classic, like the big cylinder full of liquid and then you pump it like this, right, with a little sprayer. It's like something out of Luigi's Mansion. And we had to leave. It looked exactly like that, except for instead of Italian, this guy was Brummy, which made it better. And we had to leave. He was like, oh, if you could go for like the next 2 hours, that's all good. So we just went out and we came back and then every floor was soaked in this like moth killer, right? And then all of like the skirting boards, doors as well, and it was all like this kind of white residue, and it was quite nasty because for like the first few hours our feet got wet, right, walking around. But then they had to come back I think 2 weeks later to do the exact same thing to kill all of the hatched moths from eggs that had been deposited in the first pass. And I think this fluid is supposed to kill eggs, but it's just basically to just get rid of anything that might have got through the cracks of the first pass. And then the whole thing happened again 2 weeks later. Since then, man, I think I've seen like this. So this was 3 years ago, 3 years and just over 3 years ago. I think I've seen one moth since then. So this stuff is quite effective. In fact, I've seen so little things in here. Like I've seen no creatures in here apart from one spider a few weeks ago. So I mean, very good. It was very good. Hopefully that stops me from having to deal with anything in the future as well. I don't know how long this professional industrial grade spray lasts.
Yeah, for me, the only time we ever get moths, I always see moths really, is if like I leave the window open in the summer, just like a moth fly in because you leave the light on and it's dark outside or whatever. And that's really the only time I ever see moths, and usually they're just taken care of quite quickly. We've had a couple of things like we had a wasp nest in the garden.
Ooh. Yes.
We've got to try and take care of. That was like a whole thing because we got like a bed that's like a raised bed towards the back, and like we were trying to clear it out so we could plant some flowers or whatever. And as we dig down, you move some of it up and like a wasp comes out, and then you move more up and you see like an actual whole nest, and you're like, okay, nope, put that back down, babe. Put that back, and then you got to take care of that, which is always fun. But no, for the most part, we've also been pretty. I know, like again, this when I was much younger, living at home, we like at some point we had ants. I feel like ants used to be so much more prevalent in the UK.
I agree.
When I was a kid, I felt like I saw ants all the time. And I feel like now, I can't remember the last time I saw an ant, right? I remember coming home from holiday once when we were like, I was like 8 or something, and there was like a whole trail of them that had come into the house, round into the kitchen, and then up to the honey in the cupboard, and there was just like this long trail of like single file ants that had gone all the way in, and my parents took care of that. But I feel like when I was younger, like you go in the garden and it'd just be ants, and I feel like now I just don't see ants. Ever.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I experienced the exact same thing when I was a kid, but instead of the honey, it would always be the sugar tin. You open the sugar tin, there'd be ants in there. And I've actually still been conditioned to this day that every now and then, if I'm looking in a sugar tin, I'll check for ants. I've not seen one. Again, so it's probably similar, like you're 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah, right.
So you're right, the ants have disappeared from homes. I don't know if it's just we've noticed that, or we've got lucky, or there's actually been some kind of like ecological habitat change.
I think there must have been, because again, my parents talk about, like my own talks about having to get somebody out to take care, like an older house that we used to live at, having to take care of like, having to get somebody out to take care of like an ant's nest in the front garden, right? Like they found one and they had to get somebody out to deal with it. I wonder if it's correlated, because people also talk about the massive decrease in the number of like flying insects. I don't know if you've seen like the jokes about like windscreens. It's like car windscreens in 2000, and it's like covered in bugs. And then like now there's never bugs on my windscreen, right? Like I drive around.
That's true.
And they're just the occasion. It's like it's an oddity when you see something flying around on your windscreen. And apparently that's like a noted thing. Like there's been a marked downtake, like a massive decrease in the number of airborne insects since like the year 2000, or even maybe before that. Since like the massive, industrial grade car production, that everyone's driving cars all the time.
Yeah. I was going to say, what's causing that? Is it urbanization? Is it climate change? Is it just some kind of like ecological thing that's unrelated to either of those two things? I do wonder.
Right?
Yeah, there was one day, like 2 months ago, just this period of 24 hours, where there were just flying ants everywhere for like one day in July or the beginning of August. I think it was the end of July. There was just flying ants all over the place. Like I noticed it visibly because I went to get some food from a food truck, and there was flying ants everywhere. And I was like, what the hell? This is a bit gross. But then I noticed as I was walking around, they were all over the place. And there was like memes about it on social media and stuff. So I was like, okay, well, this isn't just me. But there's just one day, and I was like, this might have been a more common occurrence then, many years ago.
Yeah.
But this only happened recently. I think it was a very humid day. I think that was specifically why they'd all come out to play.
Yeah. Looking it up, it looks like there's been a 60% reduction in flying insects over the last 17 years in the UK, and England suffered the greatest decline of 65% fewer just insects in general between 2021 and 2004. So there's like a big old drop off.
Wow.
I imagine it's just like, I imagine it is people like my parents killing the ants, right? When everyone gets their own home and everyone starts destroying all of the insects that they don't want, I assume that's going to have an effect on the insect's ability to reproduce, right? And eventually, and if like half the insects die to car windscreen wipers, just getting hit by a car. Like. But yeah, no, there's just been a massive decline, I guess, in the number of insects. I'm not complaining. I assume
neither.
There's probably like an ecological reason why I should care that they continue to thrive. But like, I'm quite happy that I don't have to, as a homeowner, I don't have to deal with ants wandering into my house.
Yeah, that's definitely an advantage. Or flying ants or flying insects, which are the worst.
Yeah.
Have you noticed decrease in flies?
I feel like I have. Again, I feel like growing up, my mum would more often than not buy. You can buy like these things where you stick them to the roof and they're like sticky. And then like the flies stick to them and then they can't leave, right? And so it's like a way of catching the flies. And like, we've just had summer here in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any flies, like at least none that were like worrisome enough to me to care, right? Like we have fly spray, like fly killer. I've not used it this last year, right? So I think I've also seen the decrease in flies, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I've noticed that this year as well, as opposed to like a couple years ago where they always used to fly in, but again, maybe I got lucky.
It's probably just global warming. It's probably getting too warm for me.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, they've all migrated somewhere colder. Have you ever had a mole infestation in your garden?
I've never seen a mole, man.
My parents experienced that a few years ago, and a couple of people I know actually experienced that recently as well. You just look in your garden, there's just like little molehills all of a sudden, just molehills, and you've got to call them, and then they like set traps.
Yeah.
And they've set all these traps and these things, and then all these moles kind of get. I think they get killed, but maybe they get caught. I actually have no idea. And then you've got to wait for your like grass to heal. So that's something that I've seen before. I think my parents have also had mice in their attic. I remember when I still used to live at home, I'd be in my bed like at 12 a.m. and I just hear this like upstairs, and I'd be like, "What is that?" And I used to tell them all the time, "Guys, I think there's rats in the attic." And they're like, "No, you're just hearing things." And they kind of let it get to the point where it was too late. And they went up into the attic and there was just droppings everywhere. And they were like, "Oh no, we need to get pest control."
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I know my, when I was younger, my grandparents used to have, like, at some point must have had a problem with mice. Because I remember we'd go over and they weren't about calling pest control. So they had, they just bought mouse traps, right? And they had them down around the place. And apparently mice like chocolate. Like it's a bit of a myth. They like cheese. Like I don't know if they dislike cheese, but apparently cheese is not like their favorite thing. And so they just have a little mouse trap with a little piece of chocolate on it. And then the next morning you come back and there'd just be a dead mouse inside of the mouse trap that had gone to try and get the chocolate.
That's,
the truth is mice like a variety of human foods. Some of the most popular snacks include beef jerky, candy, and even chocolate. Do
beef
mice
jerky
actually like cheese? Mice prefer to eat grains, vegetables, and sweet foods over cheese or other dairy products. The misconception is that mice like cheese may have arisen because centuries ago many types of cheese were stored in the open cellars, making the cheese more accessible to mice than other types of stored food.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's just like a location thing where they kept the cheese in the place where the mice could get to.
That checks out. That does check out. Yeah. I think that's the only. Oh, they did have to deal with a bee's nest once, but I think they just got someone to remove it, and then that was it. That was like a 2-day thing.
I think growing up, the only other thing we might have had to deal with was, I think we had bats, like an actual.
Oh, no way!
You can't like take care of bats yourself. Like they're endangered or something, so you have to get like a professional out, right? Like if you've got like
capture them.
I think so. Like if you've got like it's like illegal to kill them. I'm pretty sure. If you've got like a wasp nest, you can just try and kill the wasp. Like you can try and deal with it yourself. But like, can you kill bats? You can. Yeah, you be committing a criminal offense if you deliberately take, injure, or kill a wild bat. So we had to like get professionals out and be like, "Hey, could you, we got these bats that we see flying around." I think the way we figured it out was because my mum's oldest cat brought a bat in. Like he caught a bat. I don't know how this cat managed to catch a bat, but he caught a freaking bat, brought it in, and we were like, "Where in the heck did that come from?" And then we looked around and we saw it was on the inside of a roof on the outside of the building. And it was like, okay, well, we gotta go take care of that. But no, crazy. You're not allowed to kill bats. Fun fact.
No way. It's in case you kill Batman by accident, then it would be murder, right?
Yeah,
can't be too short. Oh dear.
But yeah, no, pests, man.
Pests.
Wild.
Pain in the ass.
Pain in the backside.
The definition of a pest is an animal that provides, or a creature that provides absolutely no benefit to the food chain, right? If you removed them from Earth, there would be no detriment.
Do any of those exist? Like, I mean, they must do. But like, surely everything has a purpose, right? Like, surely, like, even the things that you think of as pests, are they not edible by something that's then helpful? Or is that like the whole point? Like, they're not useful at all?
Yeah, I think that's the point. Like, that's why... Because mice and rats, the only thing that eat those are cats. But then like in most places, you don't have stray cats, do you?
Yeah, true. And if you do, you're not trying to encourage stray cats, right? Like
exactly.
I don't know if the cats are doing much for the environment outside of getting rid of mice and rats, right?
Yeah. Flies, I thought, were pests, but then spiders eat them. So I have no idea if they actually are. Maybe just the house flies are pest, and spiders eat other flying creatures. I'm not too sure.
I don't know. I Googled it here. It says mice are essential for the ecosystem because they help control specific populations in the larger ecosystem. They also serve as food predators, while their droppings and movement help to fertilize and aerate the soil. There you go.
Oh, so apparently a pest is a destructive insect or other animal that attacks crops, food, and livestock. So it's something that's actively reducing the food chain.
I guess at that point it's kind of dependent on the area. Right, like
your situation, right?
Something might be considered a pest in like a field of tomato plants, but it's probably not a pest in your garden if you're not trying to grow any plants, right? Because it's not destructive, it's just kind of there, which I guess makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does check out. Very interesting.
I do see your next topic, Nick, just says bathrooms, and I'm very interested to see what this is.
Okay, so I was at a restaurant a few days ago, a steak chain in London.
Steak again, man. You had steak last week.
I know. I had steak twice last week. Ooh. I was indulging for sure. I was at a chain in London, which is really nice. It's called Flatiron. And I was there. Yeah, really good. Would recommend. Was with my girlfriend and a family member. And we were just kind of chilling, having lunch. And I went to the bathroom. And the bathroom was downstairs. And I walked into the bathroom. And my immediate thought process was to look for the male bathroom and the female bathroom, right? Or the singular cubicle, the singular toilet.
Yeah.
But instead there was just a bathroom.
Yep.
And I walked in and I was like, okay, I think this is the bathroom for males. And there was cubicles on the left and sinks on the right. And then what I realized was that this was like a genderless bathroom setup where you walk in, there's just cubicles on the left and you got a load of sinks on the right. Funnily enough, I'd gone down to wash my hands, but I made this observation, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever, cool, wash my hands. And then a couple of girls came down, walked in, saw me, immediately panicked, right? Looked like they'd seen a ghost because they thought they've walked into the male bathroom. So I was like, no, don't worry, I think this is for everyone. They were like, oh, okay. But it led me to thinking that there were a lot of public/hospitality bathroom setups. Right?
Yep.
So, Isaac, as some homework, I've noted down some of them on paper, an archaic medium called paper. So, last week we did a tier list, right?
Yes.
Minecraft mod packs.
We did.
So what I thought was I would list down types of bathrooms, and then we've got stage 2, which is methods of drying your hands in public places as well, which I think will be the longer one, given that there's quite a few more options that I've noted down. But I wanted to go through these with you and see how we rate each setup.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm ready.
So the one that I've just described, okay, so this is a traditional style bathroom with cubicles.
Yep.
And sinks. But there are no urinals, which are specific to, traditionally male bathrooms. And this is in the Western world, by the way. But it's for every gender.
Yep.
How would you rate this setup?
Are we going like S to F?
We're going to go S to D, let's say.
D, okay.
Let's go S to D.
I mean, I think this setup is... Ooh, it's an interesting question because now there's variables that matter here because it depends. Are we talking specifically restaurant bathrooms or just any kind of public bathroom? Because if this was an airport, I'd be annoyed because airports are busy, and at a busy airport, urinals are helpful because they help with throughput, right? I think people are faster at urinals and they just don't take as much time to get in and out, right? Right. I will usually go on.
Yeah. Let's go with restaurants because as far as I'm aware, no public space would implement this kind of setup, right?
Yes.
So we'll go with restaurants.
Sure. In that case, I mean, like, S tier? I'm down. I think this is fine. I'm not a massive urinal fan. I'm not like, going to urinals wherever possible. So if I just, like, having one bathroom, as long as it's marked just toilets, and there's just sinks, cubicles, and drying, I'm fine with it. S tier. Doesn't get better.
Okay.
I don't know what needs to be better than that.
Okay.
What about you?
Well, I would rate it a B. I think it's fine. B is my average point, I guess.
To be fair, I want to make it known. Nick knows all of the rest of the options. I've got no idea what the rest of the options are.
This is correct. So I will note down your preferences in case you want to adjust some of them as we go through this, right?
Yeah.
So you've I've written down single bathroom, mixed cubicles, single sinks, right? So mixed being the gender.
For you, is it just the lack of urinals here, or is it the whole walking in and not knowing if you've walked into the men's or women's?
It's that. So it's the process of not knowing. and being like, oh, okay, this is just, and then realizing, and the lack of urinals. Not that I mind, going for a wee in a actual toilet cubicle, but sometimes it's easier, right? Or sometimes if it is busier, it is useful to have the option as well. So I rate it average. Don't hate them, don't love them. So next, we'll go with the classic, right, as our true baseline. The traditional 2 bathrooms, and this can be anywhere, public spaces, restaurants, whatever. Male, female, a large room, urinals, cubicles, sinks, hand dryers. So the normal setup.
So I want to say like S, but like again, but I honestly might pull it down to an A. Which does sound crazy, but it's honestly, man, men are gross.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree with that wholeheartedly.
The amount of I feel like in these kinds of bathrooms, if it's a shared bathroom, I feel like they tend to be a bit cleaner. I guess there's just a balancing effect that happens between men and women. Whereas if it's just a male bathroom with urinals, cubicles, and sinks and hand dryers, I feel like they're usually more gross, right? It's probably more cleaning for the establishment to do because they've got to clean 2 separate toilets, whatever. And in my experience, they tend to be less nice. They tend to be more gross, right? You're more likely to have just pee on the floor. The lock on the cubicle is more likely to be just busted, like someone's kicked it in for some reason.
Yeah.
And and like 3 of the taps don't work, and I'm gonna write. I'm talking myself down to like a D, but no, I'm gonna rate it A. I think it's a good setup.
It's A. Okay.
I think I generally prefer the shared just because of the fact that it's usually just a nicer and easier experience. In my from what I've done, right? It's probably because I've only ever experienced the shared situation in like much smaller establishments, right?
Sure.
Which tend to put more pride in their bathrooms anyway. Whereas like the separate cubicle thing, it's like a chain or like a fast food place, or it's less likely to be as well maintained in my opinion.
Okay, I rated it an A as well, just because it's good, right? I agree though. Male bathroom is disgusting, and maybe it's the fact that in a shared situation you only have to clean one bathroom, so more effort's put into that.
That's what I was
cleaning
thinking,
of that bathroom. That it tends to be cleaner, because I have heard girls describe girls' bathrooms sometimes as being terrible and vile. And the worst, the reason I have rated the separated bathrooms above the shared bathroom is because in busy places, I need the toilet. The female I'm with needs the toilet. I go in, do my business, get out. By the time I'm out, female person I'm with still waiting in a queue, right?
Yeah.
For the toilet. So if it was all
you're saying this is in a shared, or this is in a separate?
This is for separate, right?
Yep.
So I imagine if there was a situation where you'd have shared, that would amplify the problem.
See,
right?
this is why I think it matters where it is, because again, I agree with you there. If there was just one shared bathroom, like I'm imagining maybe like 4 stalls, right, in a very busy restaurant, that's obviously going to be a problem, right? Because there's just not enough space. But for me, anytime I've ever seen that situation where they have usually if they have unisex bathrooms at all, it's usually a fairly small establishment, right?
Yeah.
They've just got like one room that has plumbing, and so they've just made it a unisex bathroom. And so I don't know. Obviously they would be worse if they were in busy locations, but I've never been to a busy location that's had just the one shared bathroom, right? Have you?
I have been to some pub, like bars and busy restaurants sometimes that are like clearly they became too popular for how big they are.
Yeah.
And they've not got like a very good bathroom situation, right? And you've had to wait or stuff like that. But then that moves me on to the next option, right? Single bathroom, single toilet, where the toilet, the sink, and the dryer are all in one box room.
Yeah.
And that's all you got. Maybe if you're lucky, you got 2 of them.
Right. So you go to the end of the hall. They're like, oh yeah, down the hall on the left, and there's just like one room, and everybody in the establishment goes to the same toilet.
Correct.
Again, these usually, I've seen this. It's usually in a smaller establishment, and they're usually really well done. Right. I find from what I've experienced, it's usually a bigger room. Right. that has like the toilet in like the corner, and then it's got like a sink and a hand towel, and it's not too cramped, and it's all pretty well laid out. But again, you do have to share with everything. And I think the worst thing that the worst crime that a public toilet can commit is making you queue for that toilet, right? I hate having to queue for the bathroom, and so I'll give it a C, man.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm giving it a C as well, just because, as well, it takes one person
to
ruin the rest of everyone's day, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you don't have that, you have a lower risk with the other options. So yeah, that's pretty grim. Now, next option, similar setup, but the toilet is in a cubicle room, right? But the sink and the drying options are outside.
Yep.
Thus, if you just need to wash your hands, you don't need to go into the toilet. What do you think?
So I kind of failed to see the difference between this and just are these gendered or are these unisex?
Unisex.
I've kind of failed to see the difference between this and the start of the first option. I guess the only difference is that like you're saying that in the first option everything is inside of like one room, whereas in this option you've got like kind of multiple small cubicle rooms, and then outside of that room there's like a sink / dryer in like the hallway area or in like the area around those stalls.
Yeah, or in the situations where I've seen it, there is just one toilet.
Yeah.
And then you can someone can go and use the toilet. Yeah. Right. But I value this over the previous option because if I need to wash my hands, which we've established I do 300 times during a meal, I can just go wash them without having to go into a bathroom that could potentially be dirty or, wait if the bathroom's occupied. And it means that I don't have to go in the bathroom, lock the door just to wash my hands, then to unlock the door and leave, or go into the bathroom to wash my hands, not bother with the door lock, which is what I usually do, have someone come in, panic, and then be like, no, sorry, don't worry, I'm just washing my hands. And then it gets resolved, right?
Right.
So I'm going with A for this.
Right. I can't say I've had this setup, and honestly, the times where I've had this, it's been more awkward. I'm going to give it a B because I feel like for the times that I've had experienced this, I feel like I experienced it in Amsterdam in a situation.
It just seems... is more common, yes.
Yeah.
In Europe, yes, for sure.
Where it just seemed awkward because I'm like, I walk out of the cubicle, I'm like, where's the sink? And I'm like, I want to go and, and it's like the sink is like around the corner to the left. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to rate it lower just for the lack of convenience, the lack of direction,
Clarity.
I need, I need leading like cattle to the water.
Okay, understood. So then we've got the final option that I've got written down. Multiple mini cubicle style toilets. So like airplane toilets where you go in and you've got your own sink, your own dryer, toilet, and it's all in your own little stall with a big door that closes and locks.
Yeah. Maybe D.
D.
Maybe I'll bump it to a C. I'll bump it to a C.
Okay.
Just because I don't think I understand the premise, but if this is a small room, so this is kind of like option 2, right? Is option 3, where it's one big room that has the sink but there's just one, right? Option 3 was one toilet, one sink, one hand washing system, but it's all in like one room, so one person at a time. This is like the same of that, but much, much smaller, more cramped. I don't know. I don't like being cramped like that, man. I like my space.
Oh, see. Now, this is interesting. I rate this S. This is my favorite.
Really?
So we can break this down though, right? Because, first of all, size difference.
Yep.
I'm a small guy.
Yep.
I probably don't feel the constraints of these as much, right? That's probably quite a big factor. Second, I've in a situation that has these style of toilets, I for some reason think they're quite new. They're always lovely. Like you go in, you shut the door, it's nice lighting, it's really clean, nice toilet, brand new sink, like a nice hand dryer, and it's all like polished, like very modern. I've never had a bad experience with those. And you're more likely to find one that isn't done out, right? Like if one of them is dirty, you can go and try the next one.
That's true. So like my problem with stuff like this though is kind of the opposite, where if you go to a toilet and then you walk out and you walk up to a sink and it's kind of the sink doesn't work, you can just move to the next sink and it's fine, right? Or like a line of sinks. Whereas in this scenario, if you finish up, you go to use the sink and it's broken, or whatever this is, or the hand towel dryer doesn't work, you've then got to leave that one, go find a different one. If it's busy, then you've got to be this kind of guy who's walking out and then maybe waiting for somebody else to come out of another one to walk in after them. And it's a whole thing. I prefer to have options when it comes to the sinks and the drying apparatus as opposed to being. And I just don't like the confined space, man. They're like this big. The whole thing is like this. It's like my shoulders touch the walls, and I can't do it.
Actual airplane toilet. Oh dear. So that's interesting. We do have some differing opinions here. We agree with the traditional bathrooms get an A. We agree with the single toilet setup gets a C.
Yeah.
We view the mixed single bathroom situation differently. You rated it an S. I rated it a B. Toilet with a separated sink and dryer outside.
I want to point out another pro for the. I'm doubling down on my S for the mixed bathroom toilets.
Go on.
Another trouble, man. Companies have gone too far in changing the male-female icons, and I dislike it.
Oh my god!
I dislike it.
This is.
And so having one unisex toilet where it's just toilets, and it's like they might say everybody or just toilets, and you go in and anyone can go there. It's fine. It's understandable. It's easy. Whereas when you have to look at, you've had a drink or two maybe, and you start trying to figure out which one's the male and female because you can't quite tell from the weird icon they've got on the door. Yeah. It's like, is this male? Is this? And you don't want to go in the wrong one. It's too much work, man. It's too much work.
I've seen some insane cases of that recently. I've seen it's like ultra arty, like suited up person, and then like a ballerina or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's not immediately obvious, right? There's like a global acceptance of the two main icons, right? Yep. And if you don't use the two main icons, then it's a genderless toilet, and like you said, it's okay. But I've seen ones described like as well as like spiffing lads or something like that, and then like fine senoritas, and I'm like, if you don't speak fluent Shakespeare, you would not know, right? Which is which?
It'd be like if the government just decided to mix up the words on like the give way sign, which in the UK is yield. They call it yield elsewhere. But like if they were just like, if they just changed the wording for fun, and they were like, oh, well, we'll just change the signs a little bit and people will get it.
Why not?
You know what I
right?
mean?
Why not?
Instead of saying stop, it says halt here, or stationary now. Like it's just it's unnecessary, right? You just don't need to make it needlessly complicated.
100%. 100%. I agree with that. Yeah,
I feel like they should be allowed to do whatever fancy, graphic they want, but then there should be a requirement to have like the universal symbol beneath that, right? Or next to it, or somewhere, so you can like just at a glance be like, okay, this is where I need to go. And for me, that's another plus to just having the genderless bathrooms, right? Like just easy.
Okay, interesting. So that's the second biggest discrepancy, and the largest discrepancy is the multiple mini airplane style ones, which you've rated a C and I've rated an S.
Yeah.
So there we go. I do have a feeling, however, that we might concur a little bit more in the next category, which is
drying.
Methods to dry your hands. Oh, yes. So
I'm ready.
There is a range of methods to dry your hands that are found in public bathrooms, restaurant bathrooms, hotel bathrooms, etc., etc.
Yep.
I'm going to start with the first one. Again, we'll go S to D.
Mm-hmm.
I've called it the cough cough hairdryer, right? So it's this small little white beige box.
Yep.
It looks like it's from 1993.
Yeah.
You put your hands under it.
Yeah.
The opening is probably about this big, like the size of one of my glass lenses.
It's got like it's like a silver metal cylinder, right?
Sometimes. Sometimes. This one, and it goes. You hear a little tick, right? You put your hand on, and you hear a little tick, and it goes.
Yep.
And you feel like onto your hands, and like water is dripping off of your hands. How do you rate this one, Isaac? And
this is obviously D tier, right?
This is obviously D tier.
Alongside that, you'll go tick and then tick, it'll stop.
Yeah.
And you'll wave your hands again, like after like 4 seconds, and you're like, what do you expect that to do? Right? I could have done that myself.
Yeah. It is
obviously
sometimes when I encounter those, I will rub my hands on my trousers, right? Because it's just so useless.
But it's the worst because you go and you do it, and then there's like usually they'll have like one, right?
Yes,
and then there's like a dude behind you who's waiting to go.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's gonna take like 30 minutes to dry my hands with this thing. Like, yeah, no, they're terrible. D.
100% D, agreed. The next one is the one you're describing. I call it the button slammer, right? Because these ones with the little metal tubes usually also have a button, a circular button, and you whack it, right? And then
I don't think I've experienced these, man.
Oh, you've not experienced.
I feel like
a
I've
button
only
slammer.
experienced hand-sensitive scanners.
Okay, interesting.
Dryers.
Interesting. We'll go with that architecture then. The one with the little metal tube. It's not a cough hairdryer. It's a little bit more powerful. How do you rate these ones?
These are the ones I feel like I see the most, is with the little metal tube and the scanning to blow it. I feel like these are the ones I see most often. I'm going to give them like a... I'm going to give them a C, man. I was going to go B, but I'm not. I'm going to give them a C. Like, they usually give enough force to start to dry your hands. I still find that I usually have to reactivate like 2 or 3 times in order to get like a substantial dry. And then even then I'll leave after 3 reactivates and my hands are a little damp. And I'm like, I'm not happy with the level of dryness that I got out of this, right? So I'll give it a C.
Fully agreed. Everything you said, fully agreed. I would also rate this a C. They don't do the job properly, but whatever, at least better than nothing.
Yeah.
Next option. I've called it the World Dryer because usually these are branded World Dryer, but they are the egg-shaped white hand dryers, and you put your hands under them. I've also put /PHS because you sometimes see them branded as that. You put your hands under it, and it tries to blast the skin off of your hands, right?
Yeah.
How do you rate these?
I'm going to give these like an A, man. I like the skin blasting technique, right?
Okay.
Just because it works, right? I know what you mean. You put your hand under, and the jet of like the vertical slit of air that comes down is so powerful that as you move it back, you can see the skin like indent and then move. Yeah, as you slide.
Hands.
But it dries my hands, and it does it pretty good. I'm going to give them an A. Thumbs up from me.
Very good. So I'm torn with this one. I think the method of drying your hands is highly effective. Yep. I think it's great, right? However, it's so loud.
They're very loud.
Honestly, every time I use it, I get a notification on my watch saying, 30 minutes at this noise level, you'll never be able to hear again. And I'm always like, I know, right? They usually sound like someone's turned a vacuum cleaner on and then amplified it.
Yeah.
Like 3 or 4 times.
Like you're stood next to a jet engine about to take off. Just
Yes. And like...
Yeah.
And it's like, oh God. And then it turns off and it's like, and I'm like, you need to soundproof this bathroom quite well for no one else to be able to hear this, especially if it's in like an office building or something. So I'm going to give it a as well, just for efficacy, right? Because they are very effective. Yes. Okay. Next option, Isaac. Dyson Airblade. Classic. So this is the one that looks like a big glove.
B?
Like this. No, it's the glove looking one. And you put your hands in.
Oh, I see.
From the top down, and it tries to slice the air off your hands. So you do this, right?
Right. Let's have a look. I'm
so
Googling this.
If you have a look, Dyson Airblade Classic should give you the correct image.
Oh, I see. Hold on. I think I have it. Here, we're talking about this kind of thing.
That is the one. That's the one.
This kind of deal right here. So you
put your hands, in there. You move them down and up again and down and up again. This is the first iteration of the Dyson hand dryers. I think they still sell them.
I see these around. I am going to give these... What is this? Is my way. I'm gonna give this a... I'm gonna give this like a B, man. I think they're okay. They're not as powerful as the jet engines, but they do usually get the job done. But it seems like more hassle than it's worth. It's a bit weird being like this, you know, to get your hands cleaned. I'm going to give it a B. B for me.
Okay. I'm going to give it a C because I think they are fairly effective.
Yep.
But I don't know how frequently you've used these. You put your hands in and the two streams of air aren't always perfectly similar in power. So your hands immediately touch the side, right?
Oh, I see. And
I have seen examples of this hand dryer that are absolutely disgusting. Like mold, and because the water drips into like the bottom part, that's all black. Like it's like absolutely, especially in like really high frequency public bathrooms. Just really terrible versions. Like not terrible versions, but really terrible
states,
you know, disgusting versions of these hand dryers. So I'm giving it a C. The next example is the Airblade Classic knockoffs. So that same configuration that we saw with the little kind of scoop, and you put your hands in. But it's not Dyson. It's Mitsubishi Electric is one that I'm going to call out. I'd like to hear your opinion.
See, I was going to give it like a D right off the bat. But like, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like whenever I see Mitsubishi, I feel like they usually do a pretty good job, actually, of drying. Like whenever I see a Mitsubishi like a hand dryer, I feel like they do a pretty good job of blasting my hands with air. I'll give it a C, man. I'll give it a C. I feel like they're not usually good, and I do think this is like one of my least favorite hand drying motions. But like, but yeah, I'll give it a C.
Okay, I've given it a D. Because I've used some of these that are the worst of all worlds, right? So you don't have much space to put your hands. You're worried about touching the sides, and they'll be like on both sides of my hands. And I'll be like, this is doing nothing to my hands right now. And they'll even have a little timer on them. They'll have a little screen being like 9, 8, 7. It's clearly for like eco-conscious, right?
Yeah.
Hit 0, doesn't turn off. It stays on. The time is completely useless.
It's just to get you to leave, man. It's to get you to move your hands out.
It's just to judge you, basically.
Yeah.
Not a fan. Next one.
Yeah.
Dyson Airblade V. So this is the one you first referred to. So this is the metal wall-mounted one with like a V-shaped bottom. You put both your hands under it and you move them back and forth. And yes, this is exactly the one. Yes.
Yeah, you put your hands like here and here. Like Nick said, it's a V-shaped Dyson thing. I think these might be like STMN. I think these are good.
Yeah.
I think these do a fantastic job. These usually have a similar effect to the earlier ones, where they can usually make, you can see the skin move on your hands, right? As you glide in and out. I guess they avoid the mold collection problem of the previous ones. And yeah, I think these are currently some of the best on. I remember the Dyson insert your hand ones coming out because people were like, "Oh, they're so good! You gotta put your hands in, and it's crazy." But I think it was just like it was a fad, and I think that these are better. I'm gonna give it an S.
Agreed, 100%. Also give it an S. Okay, next one. Now, I don't know if you've experienced these, but I'll describe it. I've written down weird invisible hand dryer under the mirror behind the tap. Do you know what I'm referring to?
I've experienced this, yeah.
Okay.
I think I saw this at Schiphol, at Amsterdam Airport. I think I went to a bathroom, and it had the same kind of stuff. It had a thing where you'd put your hand under the mirror on one side, and it gave you dispensed soap, and then you'd wash your hands under the water, and then you did it on the other side, and it did the dryer, right?
Correct.
I have no idea what kind of dryer is behind there. Yeah. I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it was fancy. I'll give it an A. I liked it.
Okay, so I'll write down A for you.
And I feel like it makes sense given that the water can just go into the sink.
Yeah. I think it's good. But, and I usually think the dryers are quite powerful as well, which is good. However, I can't remember what it was like at Schiphol, but I was in Selfridges in London a couple months ago. No indication or marking that there is a hand dryer. That's where the hand dryer is. You're just expected to know. I was washing my hands and I was like, where's the hand dryer? And I was like, and I was literally dripping hands, looking around. I was like, they are going to have put a hand dryer somewhere.
Yeah.
And then I saw another guy also looking for the hand dryer. And then I like looked under the mirror and I saw the grate for where the air comes out, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I put my hands under it, and they dried, but it was not marked, right? It was not marked at all.
I seem to remember it being somewhat similar at Schiphol, where they had like maybe like a really small like icon, and I was like, that's gonna be easy to miss. Like it was one of my thoughts when I mentioned it.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so we're fairly close. You gave it an A, I gave it a B. Okay. Next method of hand drying. So you usually find these at outdoor public bathrooms next to like a nature reserve or like a national park or stuff like that. I call it the 1, 2, 3, 4 system, right? I don't know if that's what it's actually called. You put your hands...
Certainly not.
You put your hands... So there's this wall, and this wall is made of this weird material, and then there's like a little open space with a light. You put your hands underneath, and it showers your hands in water, and then automatically stops the water, then automatically dispenses soap. So this is all on a timer, and then you kind of like move your... wash your hands with the soap, and then it automatically turns the tap on again for a set period of time, then automatically turns the tap off. Your hands do not move at all from the location that they start off in. And then it turns on a dryer, and then it stops, right? So it cycles this time-based system, right, when you put your hands under. Have you ever experienced this?
I have never experienced this.
Okay.
Which is probably an indication of how much I spend in bathrooms next to nature reserves, which is never. So no, I've not experienced
some car
this.
Parks as well. If you've ever been graced,
I don't think I've ever been to a car park toilet.
So I can tell you from experience, the concept is good.
I was just about to say the concept sounds good, but I imagine in execution it's...
As you can imagine, for money-saving reasons, the time period for the 2 water periods and the drying period is very short.
Yeah.
So this system, the cycle ends and you've got wet, soapy hands, and you've then got to put your hands under again to rinse them, but then you've got to move your hands away because it's going to put more soap on your hands, put your hands under the sink again to get the water again, and then wait for the dryer and your hands will still be wet. Right? They won't have dried.
And then you're going for a third time, this time avoiding all water, all soap, and all water again just to get the dryer.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
it's a whole
terrible
thing.
Yeah.
It's a whole ordeal. So I'm going to give it a C. I guess you're disqualified from rating this, but in principle...
I mean, I think C sounds reasonable. Like,
okay,
I can see the merits of it. If the drying time was long enough, I would probably bump it up to like a B or an A. Like,
okay.
If they gave you like, if they changed it so that you put your hands in, it gives you a bit of water, then the soap, then the water again, but then the drying hand thing doesn't turn off until you remove your hands. Maybe a B or an A, right? Because at that point, I'd be like, okay, yeah, easy. Everything's kind of all in one. But as it sounds like a C tier.
Okay, yeah, okay. We are on the same page there. Next one, and this is the last hand dryer in the list. Another Dyson entry.
Oh.
I don't know if you've experienced these. The really new Airblade taps. So these are taps with then 2 stalks sticking out of either side of the tap. And you wash your hands as normal. And then you can, once you finish washing your hands, you then move them under the stalks on either side, and they dry your hands and blow all of the water into the sink. Have you ever experienced these?
I do not believe I've experienced this, man. I don't think so, no.
They are...
How would you rate these?
They are the best solution in hand drying.
Wow.
It's the best of all worlds, right? Because you don't need to go anywhere, so your hands aren't dripping. All the water goes into the sink. There are separate sensors, I think. So you're not on a time limit from washing your hands. Yes, I think you can see the separate sensors there. And you move your hands under the stalks, which contain the areas that dispense the air in the blade fashion. And it's just the best solution. Hygienic, quick, dries your hands, and convenient. You don't have to move anywhere. So what do you make of this video?
You know,
Isaac?
I contemplated, Nick, how expensive it would be to get a hand dryer installed at my house.
I've gone through this process as well.
Because like it
actually,
shows
funnily
here that
enough.
these are £1,500, right?
Yes,
for the,
very expensive.
Dyson thing. But like surely you install it once and it's kind of a one and done deal, right? This is not the thing that I'm worried about. I have a feeling it's going to cost a lot more just to have someone come out, run the electrical wiring, run the plumbing to it. You know what I mean? Like there's just the whole ordeal of getting like this thing actually installed would be
and
you'd be
also
paying a lot of money.
If it breaks as well, you kind of I assume that there's a lot of kind of enterprise and industry kind of relationships here, and then they've got like a service that these.
I also
let's say
don't
you're in
even
a
know.
building, you pay like a monthly payment to a certain contractor who can replace these for you if something happens.
I also don't even know if you can just buy one, right? Like if you only sell to like businesses where you have to buy like at least 5. But I don't know. Like I say, you see those places that have the single bathrooms.
Yes,
will have like
you
a
do
Dyson
see them
thing
there.
in. So
I think you probably can.
It looks good though. Yeah, no, I'll give it.
It's
without
good.
testing
it's
it, I feel uncomfortable giving it an S, so I'll give it an A.
Yeah, it is. That's fair enough. It is very good. And yeah, I think my family have had electrical wiring put into their bathroom before.
Yeah.
And it was expensive. Yeah. I think because you've got a load of compliance stuff.
Yeah.
Against wiring electrical stuff into bathrooms, right? So you
like
kind of
here in the UK we don't
have
sockets in bathrooms usually at all. Like sometimes you'll have like a little razor one, but even those I think are uncommon. I've yet to live in a house that has a razor socket.
Really?
Yeah.
No
my
way.
house
I think
has no sockets.
Every property I've ever lived in, apart from my student ones, which probably correlate there, have had shaving sockets. My current bathrooms have a really interesting shaving socket. It's like integrated into the bathroom mirror. So the mirror obviously has a light, and then it's got a shaving socket on it, so you can plug into that. It's quite clever.
I think it's like just like I imagine your building's probably newer, or the apartment's been renovated more recently. I think my house was probably built in like the 40s, and they've not.
Right.
They didn't think about
didn't think about it back then.
Putting shaving sockets into the bathroom at that point. Yeah, like even light switches in the UK. It's very common to have the pull down ones where you click the light switch on and off, or the light switch will be on the outside if not. But yeah, no, they're very stringent about any kind of electricals in bathrooms in the UK, which apparently is not the case in like the US.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say I'm also I'm always fascinated in Europe when I go into a bathroom in Europe and there's just plug sockets in the bathroom. Like I can plug my TV, charge my phone in there if I want, like do everything. So I've always found that very interesting. So we move away from hand dryers, Isaac, in public spaces. The next option, so we're down to the last kind of 3/4/5 because the last 2 are very quick ones. Paper towels, Isaac, placed on a surface. So they've usually just put them in a little basket next to the sink. There's a bin. Paper towels exist there, and you can dry your hands on the paper towels, throw them in the bin. Done.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
So this is like you said. Basket. Did you say a basket of paper towels? Sorry.
Yeah, like maybe a little like stand or a little basket.
Oh, like a thing you pull them down out of.
No, this is resting on the surface. This is not the thing you pull them down out of.
I don't think I've seen this then. I can't remember the last time I saw like the only time I've seen paper towels in the last like 5 years has been pulling them out of a dispenser.
Okay.
I don't think I've seen them in a basket where you just pick one up.
Oh, okay.
You just take one. Maybe is that the deal? Like,
or however many you want.
I would have assumed that if they were out there like that,
dispenser.
people are probably just some piece of trash. You'd probably just pick up like half of them and
I think
throw them on the
that's
floor
why
or
they're
something.
less prevalent, basically. Which is not the best. But we'll count the dispenser ones as well, where you pull single sheets out and then dry your hands and put them in the bin. So how do you rate these?
Okay, so environmentally, I would give it a D, but like from an ease of use standpoint, I give it like an S. I love paper towels, right? It's like anything disposable, I guess. You know, so long as the dispenser's not empty, which I think is the biggest downside to these, right? It's probably why they don't deserve an S, is because sometimes you go and if they don't have a dryer, like a hand dryer, and they have paper towels, but there's no paper towels in it, you're just screwed, right? There's nothing you can do at that point. You've got to wipe your hands on your pants. Alternatively, sometimes you go to pull one out and they're either too thin or too like small, or they're so like cheap that they just tear and you get this like weird little bit of paper. So
it's like mache, isn't it?
If they're good, S tier. Average though is probably like a B.
Okay, interesting. I'm going to agree with you that I'm going to give it a B just because of the environmental factor as well.
I was rating mine absent of the environmental factor,
Okay,
but obviously, I think we should be like. So there's been. I feel like there was, this might be just like big paper towel
there is
lobbying.
contention on this topic.
I thought so. I think Big Paper Towel is lobbying that they're actually better for the environment or something, but...
Yes, due to using the materials to manufacture a hand dryer and the electricity usage from a hand dryer.
Yeah.
There is contention here, and yeah, I think everyone's lobbying against everyone. So I don't think there's any scientific answer that isn't influenced in some way.
Oh, of course, right, yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's like, on the surface, worse for the environment. If it's actually, who knows? I guess there's a calculation on the amount of hands that would need to be dried by a machine hand dryer to then make it more economical than paper towels. So probably getting one in our houses would be very, very bad for the environment in comparison to using regular towels, which is even better than using paper towels.
I don't know, man.
Yes.
I wonder, over your lifetime, I imagine you're probably right, but like the amount of times you got to like wash a hand towel and dry a hand towel, like especially if you're using a washing machine to wash it and then a dryer to dry it, right? And then hanging that up. I imagine it depends on a lot of factors, like how long you leave your hand towel in your bathroom before you wash it, right? If you have like a new hand towel in there every day, then I imagine that's a problem. But like, I imagine that if you don't reuse it, like I'd be interested in like the carbon footprint of rewashing a bathroom hand towel, washing and drying it, and reusing it versus the very small electrical cost of running a Dyson Airblade or whatever for 18 seconds.
What I do is I usually chuck my hand towels in when I'm washing other towels.
Yeah.
So I would have been washing the other towels anyway. That's going to be my environmental counter.
Yeah,
to this.
I guess. And also, like, I think you're right in that it's probably the case that regardless of all that, the environmental impact of making the hand drying dispenser is probably just worse than the hand towel in general.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
it's like when they talk about
100%.
electric cars, right? Like they talk about the fact that the amount of CO2 required to produce an electric car is like worse than just keeping the car you have. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly. We come down to the last physical or machine-based option. There's one more-ish. One kind of split into two. It's the eternal... I've called it the weird eternal paper towel roll dispenser. So this is the one where you like pull really hard and it's like a single sheet. And when you pull down, it like sucks the other side back up.
Right.
And you got to like pull down, right? And then you wash your hands and you pull it down some more. Sorry, dry your hands and you dry your hands a bit more. And then you pull it down until your hands dry and then you leave. Then...
Wait, like a cycling paper towel?
So it doesn't give you back the dirty bit.
But it's one long sheet.
So
it comes out at the one end and then goes down and goes around and goes back into the same machine on like a conveyor belt kind of thing. But you don't get back I've never seen this.
Oh, they're really weird. Let me see if there's a technical name for these things. Yes, it's a cabinet roll towel machine. Type that in.
Cabinet roll towel machine. Oh my goodness, look at this. I assume this right here is the kind of thing we're talking about.
Kind of, yes. I've never seen one with like a towel that thick. They're usually much thinner.
Rentex
like these, yeah.
Right.
These weird things.
I have never seen anything like this in my life.
Yeah, they're quite weird, right?
Yeah, so this one's got like what looks like a cloth of some persuasion.
Yeah.
Whereas you're saying it looks like a paper towel like this.
Yeah, more like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, I have no familiarity with these men.
What do you think of them from the pictures?
Not positive. Assuming they don't feed you back the same paper, which I assume they don't, then like you said, it just seems awkward, right? Like I feel like I don't know how thick they are. If they're thin, am I gonna tear it? Like the whole mechanism seems awkward. The fact that I've got to get my hands in such a way that I can, I don't know. To me, it seems like overcomplicating a system that doesn't need to be overcomplicated. However, I have been to enough bathrooms where they have the pull-out paper towels, and then they've got a waste bin that is overflowing. There's paper towels all over the floor because the thing is just full. And so I can see why some places might choose to do it like that instead of...
Yeah, that's probably why, actually. That's a good point. You got to really hold them. You got to, like, really put some muscle into pulling that thing down. Like, it's quite hard to use. The final kind of honorable mention machine is, like, the automatic ones, where you put your hand under it and it goes... and dispenses like 4 centimeters of paper towel, and then you got to do this again. And it goes.
I don't think I've seen this either, man. You know?
Have you not?
No
way. Oh, let me see if I can find a Googleable name for that. I think like automatic paper towel dispenser.
Yeah, I think I'm just living in the Stone Ages up here, man. Automatic paper towel dispenser. Let's have a look. I can understand the premise here that they just want to give you like a tiny
kind
bit
of like the pull down one, but you kind of wave your hand underneath and it kind of like spits out a bit more, and then you tear it, and then you wave your hand up again if you need any more, and it spits out a bit more, and then you tear it. Right. And I'm rating this like a D because it's a machine, so it's costed machine components to make it. It's using paper, right? So it's the worst of all worlds.
And electricity.
And electricity, and you've got to stand there for ages because it spits out like this much paper every time, like 1 inch of paper. And then the true final option is your jeans, which is always the safe option.
Or toilet paper. If you want to do it that
desperate.
way. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Not that I recommend it, because public bathroom toilet paper, I don't think you can get a thinner substance. I think, if they're looking for ways to break the atom width in terms of getting, more transistors onto a silicon wafer.
Graphene, right?
Exactly, yeah. If they're looking to get thinner than the atom, just go into a public bathroom and ask them how they got the toilet paper so thin. Oh, no. Because whatever method those guys are doing, that's what Intel needs to, and TSMC, they need to get on that.
Consult with these guys. Oh dear.
Alternatively, TSMC just get in the toilet paper making game. That's it. Yeah. Advertise you can make 4 nanometer thick toilet paper.
They will be buying from you so much. Oh man, I saw a video a few years ago on soap dispensers in public bathrooms, and how public bathrooms were usually so disgusting that bacteria traveled up the soap in soap dispensers and contaminated the soap. So if that's the situation with the soap dispenser, I shudder to think what the toilet paper's like for drying your hands. Oh, but I'll do nonetheless. Probably why hand dryers / disposable toilet paper is a little bit better.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't like public bathrooms, man. They're not fun. Just in general,
Mm-hmm.
The last topic I want to talk about, man. Payday 3 is a game that came out recently. I've not played it. But there was a lot of hubbub about it. I think if you check the Steam page for it, it's mostly negative is the feedback currently, which is different to how it was on day one, man. But the reason I think that it has mostly negative feedback is just that the servers don't work, right?
Oh.
So they've developed a game, Payday 2, and it's one of those games where even if you want to play it single player, you have to connect to the Payday servers, right? You have to matchmake for a single player experience, right? So you have to click find game or whatever, you get loaded into a queue, and then they put you onto a Payday server so you can play the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like I get why they do it. I'm assuming that Payday want to they want to monetize the game into the future, right? Like a lot of people play Payday 2, and I assume that buying skins and masks and packs and all this kind of stuff. But it just surprises me, because I know 10 years ago, everyone was ragging on games for being, I feel like Hitman might have done it, where it was like always online but single player. And there was this whole thing as well about like the new generation of consoles, right? Xbox came out and were like, yeah, the Xbox One is going to be, you always have to be online to play it. And they backtracked it eventually, right?
Right, yes, but they did. I remember this saga.
Right?
Yeah.
And it just amazes me that it's still going on. The companies are still making single player only games that will not work without a connection to the internet, which also just makes them, in my opinion, like less valuable products, just because of the fact that it means that one day this game is going to be unplayable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One day, who makes this? Starbreeze Studios, published by Deep Silver. One day, Deep Silver's going to pull the plug on this thing, right? And they're going to be like, hey, just you can't play this anymore, right? And when they do that, here's the mostly negative 34% of users.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. It's pretty bad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not ideal. And like, it just means that eventually you're not going to be able to play it, and it just seems real bad. Thoughts?
Okay. I see no upside to this.
To it being always online.
Because even if you are continually going to update the game for single player and, always provide content, why can that not be just in the form of an update to a game that you can then play offline, right? I assume one of the reasons that this is being done is to, I think, what was it? Was it one of the, was it City Skylines or Sim City? It was Sim City, I think.
Sim City,
from a few years ago that was very similar.
2013, man, that's a 10-year-old game.
Damn, there you go then. The reason is so that people couldn't pirate the game, right? I'm fairly certain with SimCity 3, people still found a way to create a crack version.
100%. Yeah, that's a thing, right?
Yeah. So even that is not a viable solution. The way it's likened to in my head is they charge you the price for buying a house, but you can only lease it for a certain period of time before it expires, and then you can't live in it anymore, right?
Yeah.
So they're charging you full price, but you've got, like you said, there is a time limit.
I mean, to be fair, that's kind of true with any game you buy digitally, right? There's no guarantee that Steam is going to stay up, right? There could become a day when Steam just packs up and leaves, and any game you bought on Steam is just gone, right? That kind of stuff happens, right? Like, it's possible some developers might make like a non-Steam version that you could download, I guess. But like, I think it's quite plausible that a lot of non-physical games that you have on Steam just disappear, right? You just don't have them if Steam goes under, or Epic or whoever, decides to pack up and leave. Nintendo did it recently, right? They just closed down their eStore for the Wii and DS. And so you just can't buy or even download, I believe, games for like the old DS anymore, or like maybe even the original Wii. And there were people who were like trying to download like every single DS game before the shop closed, right? Which is crazy. And I would imagine for Payday 3, there's in this day and age, I imagine there's also data they want in terms of...
Yes, that's the other main thing.
Who's playing, how they're playing, for how long they're playing, all this kind of stuff that they want it always to be online for some kind of telemetrics that they want to be able to check in on and harvest for revenue sharing and gaining purposes or whatever. But yeah, I mean...
But again, like that is possible for... They can collect all that stuff for everyone that is online, and
without
then just
having
allow
to connect
not
to a server
collect
to play. Yeah,
exactly, and just allow people who don't have an internet connection to play anyway, right? I'm sure it's a relatively smaller percentage of people who are offline, so they'll probably get the bulk of the data they want anyway from the people who are just happen to be online. My immediate thought when you wrote down this topic was, all these like Windows gaming handhelds are getting really popular.
Yep.
And
like the Steam Deck.
In a lot of situations, like Steam Deck, exactly. In a lot of situations, planes, no internet at all. Trains.
Yep. Barely any internet, if anything.
Barely any internet, if anything, yeah. If you're trying to hitch onto a 5G connection, obviously it's still temperamental. People in the car. Like if there's people with passengers in a car. If you're, out and about, if you're like, there's so many, if you've got a handheld, right, the situation is quite likely that you are not going to be connected to a stable internet connection. So you lose that market, and that's a growing market, right? It's kind of boomed a little bit over the last year, 2 years, whenever since the Steam Deck and all of its competitors have come out. So
yeah.
That if someone bought that and was like, okay, what games am I going to buy and download to take on my 12-hour flight? This isn't going to be one of them.
It's not going to be one of them. Yeah. I also don't understand. The second thing that correlates with it is that you see games do this time and time again, where they force online play, and they never have enough server capacity to make it work, right? I think that's what's happened with Payday 3. Like, they've been overwhelmed with the amount of requests to play. Like, so many people have paid money to buy this game, and especially on Steam, where you can refund in 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's a terrible look, and you're going to lose so much money from people trying to play, sitting on a matchmaking screen for 15 minutes, and then being like, never mind, I guess, refund the game and leave a negative review, right? Because it's just not worth it. I can't imagine, like, I get that it's cost effective to undershoot your server needs, and then, because especially in like the modern age where you can quote unquote dynamically adjust your server capacity, right? I'm assuming whoever they're with has told them that they can scale up easily and like easily pay more to unlock whatever the next tier is. Clearly it never works, right? The number of games that I've tried to play, you know, I used to play a lot of Hearthstone. They release a new expansion. Every time you go to play it, it'd be like, you've got a 7-minute wait because there are too many people trying to play it. And it's just like, I feel like it's such a bad experience for the player, and like, it would probably behoove them, especially if you're going to make it always online, to just over buffer your server capacity, right? To more than you expect. To make sure that people who do play the game and pay the full price on day one get in, right?
It is sad because there's no upside to the player. It's all detrimental to the player, right? And there'd be some forgiveness if once the developer decided to end support for the game, they then provided an update that turned off the requirement for it to have to connect to the server to function. But there's been a lot of cases, haven't there, of big developers, you know, big game studios, publishers, etc., coming out and saying, "Hi, we're ending support for this game that came out at this year that wasn't actually too long ago in the grand scheme of things. Sorry, that's it." Right?
Yeah.
Always to a lot of backlash as well. I think Activision's done it a couple times. I can't remember if they U-turned on any of it. I seem to remember there was one very, very recent, quite vocal case, but I can't remember what game it was.
Yeah.
So but that's the thing, right? It's only detrimental to the player. There's no advantage to the player.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
They'll say, "Oh, it's for your experience. It's to optimize your experience." No. What specifically requires an always online system to enhance the player experience that can't be achieved with just a system that pings, you know, home if it can, and then just lets the player play anyway and doesn't ping home if it can't, right?
The only thing I could think of, playing devil's advocate maybe, is, because I think this is a bad system, I think it shouldn't be done. The only thing I could potentially think of is they might be able to make the game size smaller, and they might be able to update less frequently if they just have to, like, if the game basically just acts as like a front for connecting to a remote game server, right? It might be easier for them to make game changes by just changing the server, and then it changes, you know what I mean? As opposed to having to fully revamp the way, like, having you read out, like, you know, people are already fed up of having to re-download, you know, 175 gigabytes of Warzone every 3 days because they decide to change the color of the rocks on one corner of the map or something, you know what I mean? So that's the only thing I could really see about it. I do see here that they've, you know, they've apologized for this unseen error, you know, sorry about the fumbled launch, and it does say that they're evaluating a new partner for matchmaking services and aim to make Payday 3 less dependent, quote unquote, on online services. So I guess we'll see how that goes. But like,
interesting.
I think it's just, it's so hard for a game to recover from such a big negative backlash right at the start, right?
First impressions, isn't it?
It's just already it's got 27,000 reviews and it's mostly negative, right? And even if they fix some stuff, a good chunk of those people are not going to change their reviews. They're going to leave it at mostly negative. It's going to be so hard for them to move up to, you know, positive, mostly positive, you know, overwhelmingly positive, whatever the Steam scale is. And I feel like so many developers fumble this first week, right? I think it's there's so many people who will open up Steam, look, oh, Payday 3, interesting, click on it, see it mostly negative, and then just click away, right?
Yeah,
like not even give it a second look. I've done it so many times.
Exactly, same here. Like customer attention span and resistance to purchase. It's like the route to purchase and like all of the drop offs. Yeah, the success rate is tiny, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's these little things. I think I was doing a bit of research recently, and I think it was Amazon or Walmart, one of the two of them, actually created a metric for how many seconds of delay in a customer user journey to buy something cost in dollars. They were like, every extra second on our website that, you know, every extra second to load that our website takes costs this much in sales.
People just drop off.
Exactly. And I was like, wow, that is quite something, actually.
But I mean, just in general, it's like on YouTube before they got rid of the dislike button, the number of times you click on a video, see that it had more dislikes than likes, and just leave, right? You'd be like, this is not the video for me, I'm not going to watch it, right?
Absolutely.
If it's got like 75% dislikes to likes, you know, you're going to be like, okay, never mind, I'll go watch something else.
This is fake or something else. Or like,
right?
This is, exactly.
And so, I just think it's such a, like, whatever benefit they could have thought they could get out of it is just not worth the massive, like, if you're Activision Blizzard and the benefit that you get out of it is making an extra like 12 billion from microtransactions with Call of Duty, then sure, I guess it's worth it, right? It's worth it to have the servers down on day one and to, because people are going to play anyway, right?
Of course.
But Payday 3? You know what I mean? I feel like, you know, it's been like 10 years since they released the last Payday. I feel like this is your chance to bring in a new, because I assume there are a lot of people still playing Payday 2. They keep releasing DLC for it. So this is your chance to kind of bring in a new wave of users and try and revitalize your game franchise, right? For ideally, I guess, another 10 years. But when it starts like this, people, you get a real bad name for it, and people are like,
it's lasting, isn't it?
I think I'll pass on that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just real bad.
A lasting impression.
I think a lot of companies do it. It's the way that it's like Bethesda's. The way Bethesda's name has been, the way Bethesda has fallen, I think is crazy. After Skyrim, Bethesda could do no wrong. Bethesda were the game studio that people loved because they made single-player only games that didn't have microtransactions, right? And that were a little buggy at the launch, notoriously, but that's what people wanted.
Like meme-worthy, though, right? It was fun, like it was a game breaking.
It was a joke that people fall through the floor in Skyrim, whatever, yeah.
Exactly.
But then they come out with, like, Fallout 76, which is an always-online looter-shooter, microtransactions, you know, you got to pay you can pay yearly for like a subscription thing to it. People hate it. You know, I'm sure people like Fallout 76, but like, and then they've got like, you know, they did the whole thing where you could pay for mods on consoles and they were doing other paid stuff. And it's just the way that they fell, from, like, the reputational damage that they sustained time and time and time again from all of that. It's not worth it. I don't think it's worth it, you know? Maybe they do. Obviously, they must think it's worth it because, you know, obviously, I think they see the amount of money some companies make, right? Like the amount of money Rockstar makes from GTA 5, right? GTA 5 is a story-driven game, much like many of Bethesda's games. Obviously, it's a different genre, but like they see how much money they make from GTA Online. It's a staggering. They probably made more from GTA Online than they made from selling the base game, right?
Probably.
Because they sell so much and then people pay for it. And they're like, I want a slice of that. But then I don't know, some companies, the way they go about it, they end up just destroying their game.
It's too short-term thinking, isn't it?
They're
thinking a little bit too short-term and too tangible objectives and key results, and not how the player feels and the intangible monetary effects that could have. It's all very short-term thinking, isn't it?
I think that's it. I think the ones that work well are the ones that release an online mode that is just good, and then after they've got a good online mode, they then bring in the marketers and the analysts and the, you know, blood suckers who figure out the most cost-effective and way to manipulate every single player into spending as much money as possible, right? I think, because I assume that, I don't know how bad GTA 5 was at launch, when it launched with, I don't even know if it launched with multiplayer, but...
yeah, I think GTA Online was quite a small thing at launch, wasn't it?
Exactly,
like, it was obviously a big marketing thing, but it's not what it is now.
Yeah, I assume that, like, a lot of the times, I think the games that are doomed to fail are the games that release and have clearly been designed from the get-go just as a cash grab, right?
Exactly.
They've already got an in-game shop. They've already got cosmetics that are way too expensive. They've already got like pay-to-win elements into it. It's all just kind of bad from the get-go. And people just don't play it. People just leave, right? I feel like you've got to develop an online mode that people want to keep coming back to. They want to keep playing because it's good, and then try and monetize that after the fact, right? As opposed to trying to throw in the monetization up front from the beginning. Obviously, they want to do that because that's when most people are going to play. But it's just, I just think it leaves a bad taste in players' mouth. I think they are less likely to try it. I know I would be if I loaded up a multiplayer segment and it was like, you know, the first thing that pops up is a big banner ad for the latest bundle that you can buy before I even played. You know, it's like...
Right. Yeah. That's the thing. It comes down to, like you say, it's just make something that's good and results will follow, usually, right? Like, that's what it is. And I mean, just on the topic about Bethesda quickly, I don't know about you, man. I am seeing adverts, full buses painted like spaceships for Starfield
Yeah.
recently. I was like, geez, I've not seen a game being marketed that hard in a long time.
Yeah,
I'm
they've
like,
gone aggressive on
bloody
it.
hell, it's all over the shop. I'm not something I've played. Not something that I'm aware if it has any of these kinds of criticisms. Similar to
I think it's a single player only game, to give Bethesda credit. But yeah,
but interesting.
It's got 7 out of 10 on Steam. It's got a mostly positive. Just Starfield.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. It's like I think like Rocket League is probably a good example of this, right? Like Rocket League just launched as a game where you could play car football against your friends, right?
Yes.
And now it's a free-to-play game that anyone can play, but it has, microtransactions and DLC and stuff. And they've kind of taken the core of a game that is good and pivoted it into this games as a service genre,
That's
right?
it.
Which I think is the way to do it, right? I think they've done, I'm sure there's controversies with Rocket League as well, but like, I think what they've done is a good example of how I think it works well, right?
Yeah, from what I've seen in Rocket League, they don't shove it down your throat, right? You can just download it for free and play the game, and if you want to do all your customization and this and that, then you can pay. But they're not like, you can't play a match in competitive mode for the next 43 minutes and 27 seconds unless you pay this many league rocket points to unlock the playing now. And it's like they ram it down your throat.
Like I get it, but like, man,
mobile games are the worst for these, aren't they?
It's
for that kind of
not
thing.
even mobile games. Bloody Activision games are the worst for this. I remember the last time I loaded up like a newish Call of Duty game. Before I'd even played the multiplayer, I select multiplayer and you go load in and straight away, boom, big banner ad to buy the season pass. I've not even played a single game yet. Buy the season pass. I'm like, no. And then it shows me like the season pass anyway, and it shows me the things I could get, and I'm like, no. And then it's like, boom, another ad. Like, this is our new like the current theme of the month, and it's like, buy the new skin for this. I'm like, nope. And it's like, here's an introductory COD point bundle. I'm like, nope, no thank you. And you got to click through like 9 no's for a game that you've paid for, right? It's like it's 60 quid or whatever for Call of Duty, and then you get to play the game, right? And it's just
it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Real bad.
It's like the equivalent of like paying for Sky TV and they still show adverts, right? It's like the worst of both worlds. It's terrible.
No,
the state of things as a service, man, and microtransactions.
I think the tides are kind of turning a bit though. Like, I think obviously not for like Activision. Activision are going to keep going with until the day they die, right? With Call of Duty and stuff now. But I think Call of Duty is becoming less popular. I think games like that are kind of becoming less popular. Overwatch 2 has overwhelmingly negative on Steam. They release it on Steam and instantly it's just overwhelmingly negative. People don't like the way that Activision Blizzard has dealt with that. And so I think the tides are kind of turning on that in a way. You know, I think people are kind of growing fed up of this model to an extent. I don't think it's going to go anywhere just because it's such a profitable one, right? It takes such a small number of whales of super spenders to make the whole thing worth it.
To make it profitable. Yeah, that's it. Exactly. It's interesting. It's interesting to see all the rumblings of regulation in that area coming up. So I know the EU of looking at this because so many kids are trying to spend loads of money with from their parents, stuff like that.
I think you've noticed a change on that. I think a lot of companies have moved away from loot boxes, like massively.
Yes, loot boxes are definitely going away. I wonder how much if there will be any form of similar kind of restrictions on the advertising of microtransactions, the kind of the deceptive user interfaces that cause you to think that you need to buy something when you don't actually need to buy something.
Call them dark patterns, right?
That's it. It's used a lot in low-cost airlines is a big one.
Websites make you feel like you've got to pay for luggage or something.
That's it, exactly. Or your seats make you think that you're not going to sit next to whoever you've booked with. Large potential retailers with yearly subscriptions to delivery services, free delivery services. That's another one trying to get out of that. So
I
have a feeling if that kind of thing came in, that hopefully will have an impact on games as well to stop it being so in your face, right? I don't think it'll stop the microtransactions.
I could see regulation on dark patterns for sure, because those are scummy, right? You click cancel and it's like, are you sure? And they swap the yes and no's around. And it's like, and then they ask the question in such a way, it's like, are you not sure that aren't you not sure? Anyway, but click here if you would like to not receive updates. Yeah, anyway. But and I think I wouldn't be surprised if there's regulation on the gambling side as well, the loot boxes, right?
Sure. Yes. I think that's one of the primary. That's like one of the near term objectives right now.
But I think Call of Duty did away with loot boxes. I think Overwatch doesn't have loot boxes anymore. It's all just you just pay for the microtransactions, you pay for the skins.
Right, I see.
That kind of stuff I can see. I think the UK has got new gambling regulations as well. Not for games, but just for like regular gambling, right? There were new like laws on that as well, which I was reading a thing about how certain companies had like massive devaluations, like $1 billion lost in value because of the new regulation. But so I could see the gambling stuff. But for the microtransactions, man, I don't think there'll be legislation just because it's just a purchase, right? Like I think I think a lot of them do bad practices with it. But at the end of the day, if it's just you can buy this, but you don't have to, even if we advertise it and you have to click away for it, I feel like they're just gonna be like, yeah, that's fine. That's the world we live in, right?
Interesting. Yeah, I do wonder how much because we have quite a strict advertisement watchdog, right?
That's true, yeah.
So I'm wondering if they'll come up with anything, but who knows? Who knows?
I mean, I don't think they misrepresent things is all. The only thing that I could see, I think I remember Overwatch 2 getting in trouble for this with maybe like Australia's watchdog or something, is like they showed like a bundle that showed like a discounted price, but like the price that it was quote unquote discounted from was never an actual price.
Yes.
Like the price they showed was like a price that they'd made up if you could buy all the things individually, but you can't buy all the things individually. You can only buy them as part of this bundle. And they were like, that's deceptive. Like that's you've lied here, right? Like you cannot purchase these things separately for this price, right? You can only get this legendary skin as part of this bundle, but the cross-through price is if they've used some weird math and marketing math to try and figure it out. So little things like that I could see, but for the most part, I think, it's just like, hey, here's a skin. It's stupidly expensive.
Enjoy it.
But
yeah. Make do what you will.
Yeah. Well,
like I said, I think
the dark pattern stuff especially could be regulated.
Yeah.
You see some games, again, Activision Blizzard, like Diablo Immortal is a game that is apparently horrendous for it. They've got like 19 different kinds of in-game currency and multiple different like actual currencies you can buy, and you can spend like thousands of dollars on this mobile game.
God.
And it's just like, I could see stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, I could see stuff like that where you've got to like, there are 4 different types of gems and you can use one gem to buy a different kind of gem. And the amount of obfuscation that happens in terms of trying to make it feel like you're not spending your own money, maybe, but who knows? We can only hope.
We can. Fingers crossed.
Anyway, Nick, unfortunately, we're out of time for this episode of the What Have You Been Up To podcast. Thank you for listening, everybody. If you enjoyed and you'd like to listen to more in the future, you can follow us here on YouTube by hitting the subscribe button, or if you're listening on your favorite podcasting platform, you can follow the podcast there as well. We're available on Apple, Google, Spotify, all of your favorite podcasting places. If they have podcasts, we should be on there. Feel free to go listen wherever you would like. You can also join the Discord. Discord it's whybut.discord.co is the link. It'll be in the description down below or in the show notes. Again, if you're listening on a podcasting platform of your choice. Thank you for listening, though. And Nick and I will tell you what we've been up to next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.